Romantic flirts are dead for Daygame in 2026. If romantic flirts or romantic sexual flirts actually gets men laid for Daygame in 2026 in the 2025 tariff era, why aren't the other coaches teaching them using romantic flirts? Why aren't they posting brand new Daygame late testimonials during 2025, 2026? I have 692 laid in po testimonials for Daygame. And it's taught me something completely different. You've been using the wrong frame the entire time. And also remind you, Elite Bundle Resurrection sale will end after the summer is over. So don't miss out while women are still outside and they want to get fucked. So the first hidden secret that you will learn is that romantic flirts do not work in the bad economy, especially during tariff era during 2025-26. That's what I promised that I'll talk about. The second thing we'll talk about is romantic flirts conflicts with Elon Musk's 5 principles or algorithms that leads to success. If it breaks the 5 algorithms, it's going to fail, no matter what field it is. Number 3, what you're going to learn is that worshiping infields of the dating coach optics, the word optics standing next to women, gets you stuck in 2026. I know it sounds crazy because we're so used to hearing it's all about how to use romantic flirts. You got to be romantic or be romantic sexual or some shit like that. You know, you got to add some romance because it's more like, boyfriend, girlfriend frame. But that is the wrong frame. That's not going to work for you. So, as I'm trying to say here, is that while you think that's important, I'm going to still share that 3 secrets. And I'm Johnny Lee. I'm the world's best Daygame coach, 692 laid in po testimonials, nearly 700. So more than everyone from Game Global combined, all the popular Daygame coaches, because they're fucking fraudsters and scammers. If they can't get people laid in 2026 or 2025 and they have no proof whatsoever and they stop posting late testimonials, then why are they teaching Daygame? Some people have switched over to Tinder or Night Game, like ABCs is switching over to Tinder. Other Asian dating coaches or Daygame coaches are switching to Tinder now. If they're teaching something, they can still get students laid. Or else ABC is going third world countries. But anyone that's using romantic flirts or romantic sexual, they're not switching. They're just teaching more boot camps, filled with boot camps full of brainwashed sheeps. My students never use romantic flirts in a billion years because romantic flirts doesn't work. It's a complete scam. So, hold on a second. Let me switch out the title. Maybe this one's not clicking with the people, right? You try a different title. All right. Here's the second title. Let's try this one. Let's continue. Sorry, I can't see shit without my glasses. So, anyways, it's unnecessary because it goes against Elon Musk's 5 principles. The first one is be less dumb. And I'll talk more in details about it. So you don't use romantic flirts and question who created this idea in the first place. The second principle is remove unnecessary steps. And you saw Elon Musk do that with Doge. I removed all romantic flirting in my game. It does not work. It is absolute fucking nonsense. Number 3, removing unnecessary steps like romantic flirts. Okay, third principle is do not optimize what does not need to be optimized. What do you mean by that? If you're using romantic flirts, right, and you fit in a boyfriend-girlfriend frame, you should not optimize this frame. The first frame is like, fuckboy, same-day late guy, quick sex. Number 2 is the boyfriend-girlfriend frame. This is the frame we're talking about. The third frame, it is the social circle friend zone frame. The fourth frame, which my students operate, is the husband material frame. If you look like your husband material, then women will stick around because they want to get married. The fifth frame is the sugar daddy frame, using seeking arrangements as lead generation and stuff like that. Sugar daddy. Number 6 is high status, status maxing. But that's not very effective these days, is it? So, which is romantic flirts or romantic sexual, right? It's bullshit. The fourth principle of Elon Musk is that you got to accelerate the results to LA. for romantic flirts in general, people have not actually gotten anybody laid. In fact, the very last laid testimonials for their boot camps or anything like that, romantic flirts or romantic sexual, is like way back then, many, many years ago. We're talking about like close to 4 or 5 years ago. They don't have anything new. And if the student get laid, it's always like way after the boot camp. So it doesn't really count. You can't collect that. If that happened, very rarely, but not during a 2025 and 2026 tariff. They might have like a one-off or something. It's just like literally collecting money without actually getting people laid, which is very interesting. So let me just give myself a like or something. Okay, so thank you for whoever gave the like. It's not showing that anyone's actually watching the YouTube right now, but I'll continue regardless of that. The fourth principle is accelerate the results, right? So Elon Musk believes that you must get the car out of the factory as fast as humanly possible. Does that make sense? You have to get out of the car as fast as humanly possible. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So what is the fifth frame, right? Before they try to accelerate the results, right? If they use romantic flirts, the problem with romantic flirts is that you need to use alcohol in the bedroom because you don't fit in the boyfriend and girlfriend frame. Then when she's drunk as a skunk, then you escalate her and you call it bedroom escalation, which should be technically, in my opinion, allegedly illegal because it's not consensual because she's pissed drunk. Does that make sense? If she cannot like think sober, then she can't. Hey, I'm on YouTube Live. Can you guys please give the video a like? Wait, why is it not working? I'm on YouTube Live. Can you please give the video a like? Finally back on YouTube Live. Please give this video a like. All right. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that it no longer works during a tariff economy, 2025 and 2026, because women are more resistant. That means no matter how much you try to do romantic flirts, it's not going to work, no matter what. So, oh shit, I knew I forgot to do something. I forgot to actually post this as the main video. Well, I'll continue talking. So basically, the fifth principle is you got automated. So once you have all the 4 steps done and is able to get people laid, you're supposed to automate it. So how will you automate it for some people? Let me change this thing. Romantic. I want to make sure on the channel trailer that it actually has this thing. If you don't know who's on the front thumbnail, that is Justin Wayne. He was the one who pioneered using romantic flirts. Lots of black people will fall for this shit. So where's Justin Wayne these days? Justin Wayne has been canceled so badly by Vice, right? By, using seeking arrangements and job scams and treating his women like they are, like he's some kind of digital pimp like Andrew Tate. He was back then, he was this original status maxer for Justin scamming Wayne. Back in the day, he was the original status maxer. So what do I mean by the original status maxer? So basically, Justin Wayne will have these job scams. And Manny Wayne and Bruce Wayne, his psychics, will help them. They'll bring women to these job scams where they have this flyer for MTV or something. I wish I had time to print it out. And then what happens is that the women will come into this job interview thinking that they're interviewing for MTV acting gigs or something like that. And then what he will do is that he will film the infields with the women pretending that they're being approached by this actor called Justin Wayne, allegedly. And then what happens is that, this is just my opinion. I could be wrong. I don't have 100% proof, but he'll close her and then they'll get the infield. They also get the bedroom stuff, but he actually converts her in the bedroom because he's the boss of her. I'm not saying all the lays were like that, but I'm saying potentially, allegedly, some of the lays, in my opinion, possibly could be done this way because there were flyers about job scams and stuff. And then when that happens, he was able to close them. And then what happens is that slowly he'll say to the women whether or not he wants to keep them there because he's already going to be paying them. And then he'll act like he'll leave or not leave. You know, it's not the boyfriend frame, the boyfriend girlfriend frame. That's why when other black people try to use the system because they're big fans of that, it doesn't work. What happens is that it wasn't a boyfriend girlfriend frame. It was more like high status frame by being a producer for MTV or some shit like that. And then Manny Wayne and Bruce Wayne is the minions that help them create this scam or fraud. But they still close the women. And afterwards, he'll make her go through steps like an escalation ladder version 2. At first, he'll probably tell her, like, if you really trust me, then you got to give me your social media passwords. And then he'll start to take away more and more of their freedoms, right? Does that make sense? It works all the way up there. Slowly, he'll take away one freedom after another until they depend on him. And then afterwards, they'll get a tattoo. They're on the payroll, but they'll get a tattoo of his name. Does that make sense? So that's how the scam works. And then from there, then now everyone thinks he's so great because, oh, I got this lock-in process, right? Does that make sense? Everyone's fooled by this thing, right? And they kept saying romantic flirts, but the only people that gets laid from this shit is instructors. There was like 8 instructors and 2 civilians that gotten laid with a system for testimonials. Just 10 in total. I'm probably number 11, you know, as John Wayne, but that doesn't count. I didn't make him a video testimonial. But that's only instructor level course. But it doesn't work for most people because it's using the status maxing, job scam, sugar daddy kind of thing. But it's not like if you were a normal person, the only one person that I know gotten laid from it was a black potential student who was paying for my course, and he was paying for Elite 60. He stopped after a while. He got money problems, but he was like 6'4" or something, 6'5" or something, maybe 6'3". Black guy. He's like almost 300 something pounds, maybe 280. Good looking, but a little bit bulky. You need, in order to fit in the boyfriend and girlfriend frame to use that, you need a lot of protector status. You have to be above 5'9", and you also like, you have to. Most people don't fit in the boyfriend girlfriend frame, right? Does that make sense? But that's how the scam works. And when people saw this infield and you saw these women that they retain in their life, as they say, oh, it's not just whatever, it's the women that they retain in their life, then people get stuck. Then there's offshoots of these things with romantic sexual. Let's add some sexual. Let's have a ratio. But I say 0% of romance will work. 0%. If you add any romance into it, it does not work because most of us are like ethnics like me who are 5'7" and just average looking. Maybe I'm slightly above average, maybe well dressed or something like that. But very average looking people that are short do not fit in a boyfriend girlfriend frame. That's why my students have to go husband material frame. But if you use romantic sexual, instead of using like this status maxing, what happens is that you start to use alcohol because she doesn't fit into the boyfriend girlfriend frame. In their coaching, they'll say, you know, you celebrate after the boot camp with alcohol. And the student said, okay, why not? Indian student would be like bench holding and stuff, whatever, right? And I get Indian students laid. Indian students are doing very well this year with my coaching, but they're not getting laid with other people's coaching. Is romantic sexual flirts don't work. So, but what they do is that they, in their coach a student or they themselves maneuver the women home. So you think, oh yeah, because they maneuver home, romantic sexual, there's a ratio. And then what happens after that is that because they don't fit in the boyfriend girlfriend frame and they're in a third world country, that's where you'd be moved to go to the boot camps. You can get away with this kind of shit, you know, with third world Slavic or European countries. Then what happens is that you escalate super hard because they say use the alcohol that you're supposed to celebrate after the boot camp, and then escalate super hard, but below the level of grape. And then what happens is when the student escalates super hard, then they start to get in trouble. They don't get in trouble anymore. But I'm just saying, what happens is that eventually she closes because she's drunk. She cannot give out the objections in the bedroom because she's too drunk to do it. So when they escalate, they bypass the objections with the alcohol, and then they call it heavy bedroom escalation. In fact, all their infields, if you remember in the past, they always have a big bottle of champagne there because this is the romantic frame. This is a boyfriend-girlfriend frame of the 6 frames. You know, the 6 frames are um, the fuckboy frame, quick sex guy. Number 2, like boyfriend girlfriend frame. Number 3, friend zone social circle frame. Number 4, husband material frame, which all my students uses. Number 5 is the sugar daddy frame, seeking arrangements. It's like a lead gen seeking arrangements. Yeah, that's how you do it. It's like, and then number 6 is high status. So Justin Wayne was using a high status, but this other one's romantic, the boyfriend girlfriend frame. But not everyone is above 5'9", tall enough to be the national average of America. And then what happens is that because you don't fit in the frame, you use alcohol in the bedroom. You get her really drunk, which I do not condone. I will never teach you using alcohol. And then from there, you heavy bedroom escalate like a jiu-jitsu match, like it's Brazilian jiu-jitsu. You try to pin her down like it's wrestling, which is very unethical. And then when you close her, what happens is that she starts to backward rationalize in her mind because she had sex with you, she must like you, and she's drunk. Why else would she do it? Then this is what they call Stockholm syndrome. When women feel like they're in a captor, kind of like Andrew Tate, when they feel like they're captured. But this is what happens when you use alcohol. Right? This is one of the crutches. There's 3 crutches. Mass approaching for the boot camps. Most of the time, they don't get laid. The only 3 laid testimonials for white dating coaches or less. The second crutch is alcohol and heavy bedroom escalation. Forget about the romantic, sexual, or romantic shit. Or it's the high status frame Justin Wayne used. Or else they use like setup game where you're a club promoter, you have some kind of high status, and then you move women around and then back to the party, you get them drunk, and then just try to close them. Having more women than men. But that's a status maxing, as you can see. The second one's alcohol to bypass objections. And the third one is mass approaching. But my one is the fourth one, which is the natural game. Social skills, social calibrations, emotional control, and arrow signs for game. Maneuver, sexualized objections, looping. Without alcohol, you sexualize it to maximum to get the sexual objections out. So you use the husband material fashion. And then most women wants to get married. Most women will have about 10 boyfriends. About 5 to 10 boyfriends before they get married. Always tall guys, right? And then the guy that she marries is a little bit shorter. But if you're husband material, you jump the line. It's like a nightclub. You go to the very front of the line and skip the whole line. Husband material works. But that's how it works. I hope that answers your question. I know I deviate a little bit, but as I'm trying to say with the 5 points of Elon Musk, number 1, be less dumb. Number 2, remove unnecessary step like dodging it, which is romantic flirts. Yes. All right. Thank you for that. Give it a thumbs up for that. We're telling the truth. I mean, how do I know that women are seeking arrangements for some of the Justin Wayne stuff? I was the one that actually asked one of his instructors to ask one of his girlfriends, and she said seeking arrangements. I won't say which instructor I asked. I am responsible for it, Justin. She said seeking arrangements. So that's not exactly Daygame, is it, Justin? Anyways, let's continue. Allegedly. But how do I know that? And you got really angry over it. You try to figure out which instructor was responsible for asking them. I'll give you a hint. It is a Spanish instructor. That's all I'm going to say. It's not Manny Wayne. Anyways, so the first principles, be less dumb. Number 2, remove unnecessary steps. Number 3, don't optimize what does not need to be optimized. This is Elon Musk's 5 algorithms. So romantic flirts is something that no matter how much you optimize, the reason why this kind of style of game does not get people laid since 2021, and you don't see anything new, because if you use alcohol and heavy bedroom escalation at boot camp, what would the women do when they're stressed out by the economy? They're going to be like a pressure cooker. If you try to escalate on a drunk woman, she will kick you off the fucking bed, or she's going to run out of the room and says, I want out of here. So it doesn't work. Does that make sense? Because she's drunk, and If she didn't have that much financial pressure, she wouldn't mind it. They can get away with this. But because there's so much pressure, it's very hard to close the people, like the women, even in the boot camps, so they don't get any more clips. And then I keep getting students laid because husband material frameworks, romantic flirt, even 1% poisons because it puts you into the boyfriend and girlfriend frame where a lot of us don't actually fit in. We're just too short. We're just too ethnic to do it. If we take away alcohol, there's almost 0% chance of that working. If it's all alcohol, then that is called a crutch. A crutch is something that you use to make it work. They teach the crutches in the boot camps. So yeah. And then stage number 4 is accelerate delay. It does not accelerate delay with romantic flirts. When you mix romantic sexual, you actually not accelerating, you're decelerating the results. You're pushing it back so much you cannot collect delay testimonials. And then number 5 is that when you have all 4 steps, then you automate at the very end. But how do my students automate? They do drills and exercises from Elite 30, from hard case to hero. Elite Access also gives them a set of smaller drills. So Elite 30 is almost like, like it's almost like the Army's basic training program. And then when you cut it really down, the Elite Access is almost like the 4 drills. Social skills flow drill. There's a martial arts system. So IDF has like Krav Maga. Marine Corps has McMap or something like that. Does that make sense? They all have their own martial arts. So this is more of a cut down martial art version of it. It's just like just doing a social skills flow drill. The 45-degree body language. The whitewash tonality. You got to mask the cortisol in your voice. And then lastly is the aeroscience, maneuver, sexualized objections, looping. Notice I didn't say romantic sexual flirting. And then whatever, alcohol, whatever. You sexualize it so you get the sexual objections out. Then you deal with it until you can deal with all the objections. You get multiple objections. In 2025, you might have 3 or 4 objections if you're 5'7". And then if you're taller, maybe 2, right? But that's the thing. But if you're shorter, you're gonna get like 4 objections or 5 objections. You will not overcome all 5. You're gonna be defeated. And then you're gonna call it a numbers game and fuck this. Let's go to Tinder. Let's give up on this stuff. Does that make sense? So romantic flirts is very dangerous because it doesn't work. If it really worked, you would have gotten laid by now. There would have been late testimonials everywhere. But there's none. It's just optics now. It's just optics standing next to women. It's just, they fool you. But the Justin Wayne system, which is the derivative of mystery method, that's why it doesn't work. Because it also follows the same mystery method. It only takes away 1 step. Open, attract, but it doesn't use push pose and stuff like that, right? It goes to comfort very quickly. What they call social comfort, basic social comfort. Yeah, it's called basic social comfort for Justin Wayne, right? So, and then that way it moves as fast as possible to basic social comfort. So that's open, attract, comfort, seduce, which is later on the escalation ladder. You're doing like half hugs, hand holding, and then you like kiss her, and then you're like, I like you. Do you like me? Same pageology, as they call it, right? That's Justin Wayne. Yeah, it's called same pageology because once you do all this stuff, because it's like a social circle, what I'm saying? Like, do I have glasses or something, like sunglasses? Yeah, like like when they like boyfriend and girlfriend frame and stuff like that, Yeah. I mean, what I'm saying? Because when they're in the in the social circle, at first they they hug a little bit, right? And then afterwards they hold hands. They touch each other in the hand, they hold hands, and then afterwards they say they kiss, right? Like after a couple months or something like that. And then they say, I like you, do you like me? And there's like a same pageology. It sounds good on paper. Yeah, it really sounds good on paper and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, absolutely sounds great on paper because I'm a gangster, Justin Wayne. But it doesn't mean that's going to be working. So that's the problem. When you're the boss and you're using this acting thing or using seeking arrangements, then other people cannot replicate this style. Only instructors like myself can kind of get it to work. But everybody else be damned. Only 10 testimonials in total. If Justin Wayne stuff does not work, then why does your system, Justin Wayne's system, use I like your frame, solidified interaction? I don't use that anymore. It's already discarded. So, like I said, that's step number 2. Remove unnecessary steps. When I taught it in 2015 or something like that, I did something like that. So, but that's the elite playbook. I left it like that because hopefully you didn't, I acquired it unfairly. But for elite playbook, it's an older style. It's kind of like the Old Testament. Does that make sense? And the New Testament is elite 30. I don't want to throw away the Old Testament because there's some history behind it. But when you do buy the products from me, there's a commentary criticizing romantic flirts. So every single video will have like a commentary just bashing romantic flirts. Every video. So if you have the playbook, the version that's on the Google Drive, the one that's probably Elite Bundle Resurrections, it'll just completely keep criticizing over and over romantic flirts. But yeah, I mean that's an older style. It's not very effective because unless she's into K-pop or something like that, then that might work potentially for for me in the past, like 2015, a little bit. And that was the 11th person out of his 10 testimonials to make it work. Most people cannot make it work. I know another black student who joined me afterwards that was like nearly 300 pounds, like 280, lots of muscles, lots of fat, 6'3" or something. He made it work. You need a lot of protector status. You need to be like black washing it to the maximum. You gotta look like a black person who has a lot of status and a lot of like confidence to make it work. It's more for the high SMV guys that are boyfriend girlfriend frame. But since my system doesn't use romantic flirts, but what you say about my system doesn't mean it represents my system now. I mean, think about it this way. That's 9 years ago. So that's already discarded, you know? So I don't think that works. I've already discarded since like 2018 or something. After Elite 30, all that's thrown away. So the system has evolved. But the old system before 2015, right? Around like 2012 when I first started teaching around there to 2013, it was mostly the arrow science, maneuver, sexualized objections, looping. All this other stuff was like later because I was testing every system out. I test every system out for 3 months to see if it works in my body or not. And I discard 99% of it. I keep 1% of it. So this one has just gone through the same discarding cycle. Romantic, sexual, discarded. A lot of things are discarded. They're not useful. Hope that makes sense. So this is exactly the 5 principles of Elon Musk. Be less dumb, right? You question where it comes from. Like, why romantic flirts? It doesn't make sense because my students don't use romantic flirts. They're husband material. Number 2, um, be less dumb. Those things. Remove unnecessary steps. Romantic flirts, romantic sexual flirts. Number 3, don't optimize what does not need to be optimized. Romantic flirts, romantic sexual, escalation ladder of romantic flirts. Same pagerology, all that shit. Number 4, accelerate the results. Because Justin Wayne could not get people laid, you know, he just like asking people on the email, hey guys, can you give me like a positive comment or something like that? You could write something positive on my what? Then he turned on his testimonials for his course. His whatever Daygame mastery bullshit misery course, Daygame misery, or something like that. And then he fucking dares use my fucking testimonial on it because I made a positive comment. But nobody got results. They're just all fans. These black guys are all fans of Justin Wayne. They like got dazzled by the optics that he created with the job scams and then the lock-in process, which is really like the Andrew Tate, lover boy process kind of thing, using his job scam. And then the women, they have to eventually work their way up step by step until they give up the passwords for the social media. And then he captures them. But it's not as bad as Andrew Tate, right? Making them cam girls, but you get my point. Or Andrew Late, I should say. Does that make sense? So, and then the next step, don't optimize what does not need to be optimized. No romantic flirt, even 1% romantic flirt does not work. If it worked, we would see a lot of testimonials from these derivatives. So far, we have seen none for the last few years. It's just nothing but optics and distractions and making people feel like they're not enough, which I don't believe that. I don't believe in Indian hate. My students who are Indians getting laid. and even Western countries. Indian love. There's no such thing as like Indian hate. You put yourself in that position. It's just xenophobia, the fear and dislike of other people's culture. But my Indian students, the ones who are not lazy with a double chin, who's short, at least medium height, and they have good work ethics, oh, they just get multiple lays. One Indian student already have 2 lays this year. The other guy, I mean, the guy from Toronto has 2 lays. The other guy has 5 lays. What the fuck? Are they fans with this romantic shit? Maybe in the past. Doesn't even work for them. The only thing that happens to them is that they hook cassette. They say, oh, I hook cassette and got a phone number. That's it. All flaky numbers. They hook the set. Yet the Indian students, every time they go out, they get an instant date minimum. So, but the Indian's harder. Like, oh yeah, Indian. What the fuck are you talking about? There's no such thing as Indian hate. It's all bullshit. So what I'm trying to say is, in step number 4, accelerate the results. My students keep getting late, multiple lays now. If during a bad economy, you might get less students, but they almost have to all of them get late. I had one student from ABCs of Attraction who already got 2 lays with my coaching, 2 white girls. He came back, but he's a little bit slow in the head. He's the X factor, right? Let's see if we can get him late this year. He has no memory whatsoever. It's all wiped out. Even thinking about him gives me a headache. But my point was this. He was a former ABC's victim. But what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't accelerate the results with the romantic or romantic sexual. You never want to mix it. You want to be only sexual, but it doesn't mean you're half-ass sexualizing like UMP. UMP is also a derivative of mystery method. It's an offshoot, except instead of romantic flirts, they go sexual nonstop, half-assing it. But UMP, which is part of Game Global, the platform scamming network, has now moved to a different category. UMP is now a night game coach. They no longer can get students late for day game. Does that make sense? So a lot of these mystery method, even Justin Wayne stuff, was based on the mystery method. Open, attract, comfort, seduce, close. Open, attraction building, comfort, seduce, close. Because of this model, it's almost like impossible to get people laid because this has expired during a tariff era. It's very simple why it failed. Because your voice will be affected by the tariffs. If there's a bad economy, you got a lot of stress in your voice. You start to sound like Sebastian, the smear campaigner. He'll sound like very angry and stuff all the time. So his voice sounds like, hey, and then sighing all the time. And then, okay, if you go to Latin countries or something like that, and you're tall and you look kind of mixed, okay, you might get some results with women below your looks level. Come back to North America, it's just not going to work. So it's not right. It's just more like, but that's not my point. My point is that romantic flirts does not work. So during a tariff economy, because your emotions are minus 2.5. Think about it this way, looks is out of 10. If you don't know what your looks level are, just say, like, for my face, ask ChatGPT, right? What is the level of my physical appearance? Take a picture of yourself. And the women that you're getting, ask ChatGPT objectively to ask, like, hey, what kind of like looks level is the women? One of my students was saying that, oh, she's a 10 out of 10. And I was like, wait a minute. I put the ChatGPT, right? I had another student that got a black stripper, 21 years old. That's the next video testimonial. And then it gave her like 7.8 to 8.6 or something. It's fluctuating depending on her looks. While his one was like 6.8 or 6.4 for the other guy, but he told me it's 10 out of 10. I was like, well, see, ChatGPT can actually tell a lot about you. It can even tell my physical age. I know that I look like I'm 26 or something, maybe 27 or something like that, right? If I lose a little bit more weight. But ChatGPT can see my real age for some reason. So I think it's a good tool to see like your physical looks scale, right? It has a very accurate look scale. Just ask ChatGPT. So that's the thing. And the women that my students get are way more attractive than Justin Wayne's like women. One guy was like this black dude who was kind of fat and balding, African guy. And he was big Justin Wayne dick rider. Then I show him the picture. He's the only one that's seen it. The women's faces uncensored for my students. And then put next to Justin Wayne's women that was in his infields. My students' results were almost like 1 or 2 points higher. His one was 8. Mine was my students were almost like 9 or 9 point something and 8.5. It just doesn't make sense. They all look like 8, and then you compare it. It's like, what the fuck? It's like, then he was like, holy shit. And then, of course, he didn't do anything. Justin Wayne victims do not get results. Only one guy I knew, one of my old potential students who did not pay for everything yet, he dropped off because I said Andrew Tate's kind of like creepy. And then he kind of got offended because like Andrew Tate's half white, or Andrew Late. Now he's arrested. Does that make sense? So I don't want to talk too much about him because the algorithms do not like that. Because he uses similar style to Justin Wayne. Except instead of job scams, he uses this lover boy method. They get the women stuck. They have their own funnel. They're almost like digital pimps. Hope that makes sense. So how does your system prevent flakes? How does technology use? My students don't actually get flakes. They get Insta-date every single time. And the women comes out every single time. So the only reason why you get flakes is not because of some coach will say, oh, it's because of emotions. It's because if you look at the breakdown, right, of communications, right? Let me put this at 55% nonverbal. This is why my students don't get flakes. Okay, so elements of communication right here. There's a chart. Hopefully you can see it. 7% is the words, right? That's the game. That's why people get flakes. Spoken words, 7%. You see that little red area? 7% is spoken words. So that's all the DHV stories. That's all the romantic sexual lines. That's all the Justin Wayne sort of lines. Oh yeah, you got an artsy vibe about you. Oh, you high five. You get a half hug for that. Oh yeah. Anyway, so as I was saying, oh yeah, what's great about you, but all that shit. 38% is your vocal tonality. This is why when I talk about that, you got to mask the voice of the cortisol during the bad economy. You have to mask the voice because if it sounds like it's stressed out, right, like Sebastian level, then what happened with women will get turned off. They're already stressed out. That's why they don't get late testimonials using this romantic sexual shit, because there's so much stress in their voice of the students. You can't help it. It's cortisol. That can make you lose your hair. That can make you double chinned. That can make you lose muscle mass. That can make you lose your memory. I still remember things. I'm so sharp, even though I'm getting kind of old now. You wouldn't even believe it, but the thing is that, and then what's 55% is nonverbal communications. You see that? Body language is 55%, the yellow. Because Elite 30 from hard case to hero is the 55%. It's almost like when you're dealing with women in general, it's almost like a DVD disc. They'll burn the DVD disc every single time that you talk to them, every single second. They're calculating looks out of 10, money out of 5, status for your race out of 10, social skills 2.5 points, social calibration is 2.5 points, emotional control 2.5 points, game 2.5 points. So social skills, social calibrations, emotional control is skills. You can drill it down. Unteachable cases will never drill it down because they never do their homework. They always run away. They're procrastinators. But however, for those categories, that gives you 7.5 points. But you can be minus 2.5 points for emotional control if the tariff is affecting your voice. If you got money problems, 5-figure debt. It's always 17K of debt for most of the people that are unteachable cases. It's universal. They cannot stop racking out debt. So that affects their voice. So when they're burning the DVD, even if they had the perfect body language, 45-degree body language, it doesn't matter because they always get minus 2.5 points, which is part of the tonality. So if you have Elite 30, Elite Tonality Mastery, no flakes. If you actually do the 30-day challenge and you don't skip like an unteachable case, like, oh, I'm going to go on my own pace, right? Like, what are you talking about, own pace? You won't develop the neural pathways. You got to make it daily. All the students who's gotten late has done it daily. The ones who haven't, they get stuck. So hope that makes sense. Looks is out of 10, right? I believe that Latinas and Black women put more percentage on the muscles. Asian women put more on the face, and no, Asian women put more emphasis on the person being tall and white, despite not having looks, receding hairline and stuff like that, which is common. You'll see that a lot of pictures. Objectively speaking, I have nothing against Asian women, but they're more into a hypergamy. They're more into race and to height. Black women are more like, if they're into K-pop and stuff, like Latinas and stuff, they'll like Asian men a little bit, but they want some protector status. Unless you look totally K-pop or something, which I can do. Unless she has a massive yellow fever, in most cases they don't. Then they need more protector status for Latinas. So you need to have muscles for Latinas. That means if you're like 5'8" or something like that, she will flake on you. Unless you're like, you have slightly darker skin, so you look more like a Mexican, and you have a huge bulky Ninja Turtle body, like the compound Ninja Turtle, pickup alpha, compound Ninja Turtle lifts, or you're 6'2" or something, then the Latinas will like you. They're very, if she's not into K-pop. If she's into K-pop or BTS, she might like a pretty boy type, but in most cases, always a protector status. Black women is different. Black women will like protector status if you're tall and you're Asian or something like that. Or yeah, usually they like a guy that's above 5'9". Usually, but however, you can still be 5'7", still have some muscles. Like my Vietnamese student, he's gotten some black women before, quite a few. So, but he has darker skin. You see that? So it kind of goes that way. So that's more realistic. But anyways, I was just saying that the fifth principle, right? The fourth one is like make it go faster for results. My students' results are fast. They don't get flaked on because Elite 30-day challenge is nonverbal communications entirely, 100%. And then, does that make sense? So you're burning a DVD every second. The disc get burned. You remember those DVD players? You burn it, and then when you text the women, right? This is what happens with the flakes. When you text the women, they take the same disc, right? They put it back in their brain, right? And then they play the disc, right? Whenever you have like fast speech, cortisol speech, your tonality points go down. Does that make sense? For the emotional control. When you start hunching and squaring off, putting pressure on her instead of 45 degrees, right? You put more pressure on her. And then when she remembers all the pressure by going direct, and then you're talking fast and you're doing this gamey clown shit, you know, like, oh yeah, you got a half hug for that. High five, you know, you got to touch. And then, oh yeah, you know, Justin Wayne shit. You escalate, touch. My students don't touch. If the people tell you to touch, and that's how you get laid, but they don't have any lay testimonials, then they don't know what they're talking about. It turns out after all these years, my system crushed the fucking tariffs. There seems to be no effect on my system whatsoever. Last year, some students don't have a memory. I adjusted the system to boost their memory. Now they have to put in a WhatsApp video that's pinned or on Signal on the very top. They have to have a video of them calling themselves out for all their mistakes. Does that make sense? They call themselves out for all the mistakes. They hear it like 12 times to 20 times before every approach. They don't have a memory. They have external brain. So I overcame that for the students. I adjusted the system every single year. Every single like year or every 6 months, my system have to be adapted. The teaching methods, the core thing is the same, right? But the emphasis changes. It's like a different variant that we have to figure out, like a mental vaccine or a Daygame vaccine variant every single half a year. We're like we're kind of like the IDF, right? You know, they don't have time like the United States Army. The United States Army, they take maybe 2 or 3 years before they update their doctrine. Israel, they're gonna get fucking destroyed. They don't update in 3 months. I do in 6 months. Does that make sense? And then white dating coaches always looks money stats plus game. That's why it doesn't work. But yeah, that's your answer to the flakes. It's almost not like, I would say the majority of it is the body language. Elite 30, when they do the 30-day challenge, there is no flakes. They all come out. It's almost like there's no like text game, but some black people might say, well, I write some good text game. Like tall blacks will always say, I'm good with text game. I got her out. No, it's because you're tall, you're black, you already have 8 out of 10 perceived natural status. You vibe a little bit, so you got some more points there, and you have decent looks. Even though you may not have a good face, you still are like at least 7 point something for the height and muscles. And then your race is 8, right? Even above your whatever. So 8 plus 7, 15, right? If it's 15.5, then they just need some boosts for the emotions, which they cannot do because of the tariff affecting their voice. But before that, you see that? This is why Justin Wayne and stuff, it's usually easier for tall black guys, but it's not transferable because he's using status maxing, raising status points. But the race is already 8. You just need enough social skills, social calibrations, emotional control. That's 7.5 points. That already get you over the line of fuckability. So if it's 15 points, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, that will give you 22 points if you max out all the other stuff. Just for social skills, social calibrations, and emotional control. But most people can't get there because it's mostly game. They're mostly using game, a little bit of body language, but a really bad one, squaring off. And also, um, emotions are not as good during a tariff. That's why Justin Wayne's system doesn't work. The social skills is very gamey, very technical. It's too technical. It's not adaptive like my system. I hope that answers your question fully. Okay. So for Mr. Le Futur, I'm not sure if that's Le Français. Oh, and the fifth principle is automated, right? That's when you do all the drills that I'm talking about. Drills equals skills. Unteachable cases will never show up for the drills. They cannot gain skills. They should not be coached. So usually when I'm looking for a student, this 2025, 2026, I prefer you're above 5'7". We looked at all the stats. Anyone below that, I hate to say it, is that when you have double chin and you're like 5'4" or 5'5", 5'6", and then you have no hair, no women are gonna fuck you. I mean, let's just be real. Because your emotions are minus 2.5 because you have debt and you're ADHD, no women's gonna fuck you. Seriously. Why would they do that? Why would they open their legs? They're so stressed out. So have a little bit SMV to compensate. 5'7". Some of the students are 5'8" or 5'9". I'm not saying they're tall, but some of them are taller, but most of them are around that height, 5'8", 5'9". Some 5'7". They all got laid this year and last year. But that's the cutoff point, 5'7". Until the tariff is over and the Iran war and all that other shit, then we can think about below 5'9", which I can get. But the ones below 5'9", they have to master tonality first in order to master the cortisol in their voice, because the cortisol is what's going to get you stuck. So my students automate the body language. They do the 30-day challenge. All the students now, when they join Elite Bundle Resurrections, 1 of 3, they all have to go through the 30-day challenge. And if they want to join Elite Access to learn the social skills flow drill and whitewash tonality, which you have from Elite Tonality Mastery, part 3 of Elite Bundle Resurrections, they all have to go through all these drills first. The ones who are very good, they're tall and they have some experience, they can go skip right to the Krav Maga or the martial arts, the map, whatever. The aspect, just focusing on social skills flow drill, social calibrations, emotional control, and game like arrow science, maneuver, sexualized objections, looping. Each of these systems, right? The Elite 30, the social skills flow drill is enough to get you laid for social skills. If you focus entirely on that, or you focus on Elite 30, right? It has gotten many students here laid multiple times, even this year. So it's worth getting. Right now, there's a sale for Elite 30. Emotional control, right? That's the Elite Tonality Mastery. That will still get you laid, even in 2025. One student learned it. Actually, a couple of students learned it. They got laid because of it. They realized their tonality needs to be masked. You need to hide the cortisol. Sorry, losing my voice. But you got to hide the cortisol. But for this year, you have to be good with Elite 30 and Elite Tonality Mastery. You cannot, like, if you want consistency, like my students, where they learn how to get more than 2 lays. Right now, they're up to 2 lays for some of the students, and one of them has 5 lays. In order to get beyond that point, they have to start learning Elite Tonality Mastery. One of the students, 2 of the 3 students already bought it. I let another guy who's Vietnamese, who's gotten 2 lays this year, with my coaching, he just started like not that long ago, a couple months ago. He's already up to 2 lays. He's working on his 3rd lay. He bought Elite Tonality Mastery. Normally, he's supposed to take Elite Access and then Elite Tonality Mastery. But, I let him skip it because he likes to do it himself, right? His own way. He doesn't listen. He shoots down my ideas like the Iron Dome. He shoots it all down, right? Like a Latino student. Listen, where are the Latino students, guys? I'm trying to help you guys. Where are you guys? A lot of the Latino students that I was getting laid in 2025, they're having money problems in 2026. Where are you guys? Come back. Where the fuck are you guys? I need more lay testimonials. It used to be so tough. Most of these guys are short Latinos. They're like 5'7" or 5'8" or 5'8.5". The tall Latinos are usually one who struggles because they have more of an ego, because they used to get multiple girlfriends before or multiple lays and stuff like that easily. And then they have such a massive ego, they think they're experts. That's why they don't get laid very easily, or they have to play a huge numbers game in Mexico or something. Or they had to go fly to a Latin country. But other than that, yes, that's what I'm trying to say. Anyways, let's get back on topic. So my students do not rely on game techniques. It no longer works. There's 6 frames: fuckboy frame, boyfriend girlfriend frame, friend zone frame, husband material frame, sugar daddy frame, high status frame. But I'm going to share with you, right, 3 hidden secrets. And like I promise you, right, we're going to go over each of them and how you can stop listening to other day game coaches who no longer gets people laid for day game with these romantic sexual flirts or romantic flirts. And I know you're probably thinking, right? Maybe you're the same ethnicity, right? Maybe you're black or something, right? And then you like listen to Justin Wayne and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like that's how he talks like, like that's the thing. You got to be like, you gotta be more alpha because I'm a gangster. Yeah, that's right. Sometimes he acts like he's a gangster, right? A crazy motherfucker. So with the Pennywise eyes. Oh, Pennywise, dancing clown. Oh, hey, Georgie, they all float. They'll float too. Yeah, so yeah, maybe like, you're the same ethnicity as the coaches, you're black, and then you think that, I got a lot of black students laid. Usually black students, they're like among the top students. They get so much laid, it's ridiculous. And multiple girlfriends and stuff like that. Even at the same fucking time. Or 100 lays for one of the students. So if you're black, right, or you're Indian, you listen to these romantic ideas, right, or romantic sexual, but the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. I'll say this again. The definition of insanity is doing the same romantic flirts over and over again and expecting different results. Give a thumbs up for that. How can you get different results if there are no late testimonials to back it up anymore during the tariff era? How? I mean, ABCs cannot get students late anymore, not even in the third world countries for day game. Maybe before the tariff era, maybe one student got laid 2024, a guy called Colin. Decent looking guy, at least Latinos like him. They don't like any of the other old washed out students. So they go to Tinder. Just one student gotten laid from ABCs. That was like years ago. Now it's just more like swiping on Tinder for $7,000 for boot camp. But I digress. So the definition is insanity, doing the same things over and over. If there are 0 day game late testimonials, do their opinions matter? The answer is no. Unless you can get people laid, you're just flapping your gums like Game Global. Blah, blah, blah. This is what they do. They flap their fucking gums and they debate each other. Blah, 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 blah. Talk in front of a microphone. They debate. Who gives a fuck what they think? Why would they debate? You have no fucking late testimonials. What's the debate over? Whose opinion is right from 2021 fucking ideas? You're debating over things that you get late testimonials. In 2021, I was like, what the fuck? And UMP, right? It stopped after like 2024, beginning of the inflation. 2025 tariff, 2026. They already transitioned to a night game company. Nobody cares what these people thinks, but they still talk like they're experts, and Game Global promotes them like they're authority because they're given false authority, and they have no more day game late testimonials, and they used to be popular, but now they are washed up. I keep getting students late, but nobody gives a fuck. It's like, don't you guys see the connection? If a student can get laid over here, maybe you can get laid, as long as you're not like fucking 5'5", ethnic, and then have a double chin and losing half your hair. And then you have no muscles, and you have a big belly, and then you have no memory, and you love to procrastinate. You got 5-figure debt. I can't get someone like that laid, not because is your looks or your height. It has nothing to do with it. Because your fucking belly and your double chin is so full of cortisol, it's affecting your voice. No women under a pressure cooker environment wants to fuck that. Seriously. It's like, oh no, what do we do? We lay in the corner and whatever. Yeah. Sorry, but I can't help everyone. I'm just looking at the stats for 2025, 2026. They're all above 5'9". I mean, no, they're all above 5'7". They're 5'7", 5'8", and 5'9". Most of the students who've gotten late. Does that make sense? 5'7" is a cutoff. So if you're 5'6", unless you can wear heel lifts to be 5'7", or you're 5'5", you can wear elevator shoes and become 5'8". Unless you can make the 5'7" minimum height, you must be this tall to ride. I can't fucking help you. You're like, well, isn't your system? Well, you have too much cortisol because you have severe ADHD. You can't even manage your money, so you're full of cortisol. Your voice is affected for that 38%. How can I help you? How can I help you? You need to get your money in order, first of all. You can't even control your money spending. You can't stop spending on junk food, and you're getting fat and you're double chinned. What do you expect? So, anyways, let me show you that, you know, you guys stop worshiping coaches because they're the same ethnicity. It's not because they're the same ethnicity. It's because they can get students laid. If they can't do that, it doesn't matter what ethnicity they are. It doesn't matter about the women that they stand next to with a perfect DSLR photo shoot. It doesn't matter what their opinions are and what they say about race and dating, like Indian hate or whatever shit. Who gives a fuck? It doesn't make any sense. If they're not getting students laid and they're distracting you with optics, then you can not listen to Poison, because it turns out after all these years they just play a numbers game with crutches. They had no idea what they're talking about all this time. They were just playing a numbers game, using crutches, better emasculation, alcohol, or they're using some kind of high status frame like Justin Wayne. And then you guys all fall for it. So I'll be honest, right? If looks is bad, less than 5 out of 10, game won't work. No, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. Before the inflation, if you're 5 out of 10, you still get laid with my coaching, even if you're 5'3" and 5'4". I got many people that are laid like that. Looks is only out of 10 points. Looks out of 10, money out of 5, status out of 10. Status is like equal to, for your race, right? Is equal to the looks category. Does that make sense? Social skills, social calibrations, emotional control, and game, right? That's 10 points. You get it? There's many 10 points. Looks, status, and all the other 4 categories: social skills, social calibrations, emotional control, and game. All of them are whatever. So even if you're 5 points, but you have money all the way through 4, does that make sense? That's 9 points. Does that make sense? And then your status for your race, right? Let's say you're Latino, right? You're 6 out of 10. Sometimes you're standing, it used to be 7 out of 10 because of all the ICE raids and stuff. Like I said, nothing against Latinos. I want to have more Latino students. I've gotten so many late, especially 2025. You guys cannot afford to train with me. But because of that, it lowers the standing, right? So if you took a Latino 6, right, plus 4, that's already 10 points. Their looks is out of 5, that's 15, right? Then they just need social skills and social calibrations from Elite 30 and Elite Access. They already get laid. Do you see that? So they're 5 out of 10 in looks. They can still get laid. So it depends. You got to think, first of all, you got to reverse engineer from the race. They're not using status maxing like Justin Wayne, right? So what are the type of status that you can add? That's what ABCs of attraction is trying to use for the Asian students in Latin America. Number 1, you have a high status lifestyle that you can demonstrate in your Instagram or something. Number 2 is a high status job. Maybe you're a club promoter or something like that. Or you're a music producer like Justin Wayne, right? He's a music producer, as he tells them, right? From MTV or something. And then number 3, you have a third world money status advantage because you can travel to multiple Latin countries or European countries. You show this in your Instagram. Number 4, you have the exotic advantage. If you were in like Ukraine, for example, and all the women are Ukrainian and you're the only like ethnic there, then you have some kind of advantage because you're the only one there. You're the exotic advantage. Those 4 points in Latin America, this is where ABCs is trying to boost their students with their Instagram to their Tinder, which is easy to get laid and just by swiping in Latin America. So status can also raise the points. Does that make sense? But you cannot use it unless you're an entrepreneur. If you're an engineer, you will not be able to use these status maxing. You can't stand next to women in a nightclub and post that in your Facebook or your Instagram, because when your boss sees it, they get jealous and they'll fucking fire your ass. They'll fire you right on the spot. Your coworkers will get jealous. You start a lot of drama just by that kind of Instagram. Does that make sense? So ABC's people, right? Maybe they use a different name or something. I don't know. But they don't have this, they probably don't put that in their main profile when they're in Latin America swiping. But that's a status maxing. But Justin Wayne was using a high status job, right? To do that. Not high status lifestyle, but he's using not third world money status advantage, but he's using exotic advantage. He's black around white women. So he has 2 points of status. So Justin Wayne, even though he's 8 out of 10, he becomes 10 out of 10 by doing these two things. That's why he does it. And his looks level, even though it's like 6 point something, maybe 6.2, that's already like 16 points. Do you see that? He just needs 4 points. But if you take away the status maxing, Justin Wayne, those points become more difficult. Those 2 extra points. Because he only needs like he's already got 16 points there. He just needs like 4 more points to make 20 out of 35. But is his game that good? Romantic Flirts is very ineffective. Unless you're really good looking and you're tall. It doesn't work for most people, unless you're above 5'9". I'm the only 5'7" that made it work. I'm an instructor, so that's different. But even way back then, in 2015, I was teaching. So I made my website 2016, but I was already like on Facebook and stuff. That's when I knew Justin Wayne a little bit on 2015. Long time ago. He used to be very scared of me. He never talks to me. He always gets afraid because I keep getting late testimonials, even in 2015. But 2016 is when I made my website. I started teaching Daygame in 2012. I was stealing all Gen Lifestyle students. I go to this meetup group and I get everyone's phone number. And I start teaching them. I keep getting them laid. That's when I realized I was special. And I kept testing every style game. But I'm digressed. Let's change the topic. So, as I'm saying, just because they're your ethnicity doesn't mean that's who you listen to. I have 692 laid in protest. 692. I'm nearly 700. But why are people not lining up? When my smear campaign on Reddit? What the fuck is wrong? Or is it money problems? Maybe they don't give a fuck about the smear campaign. Maybe it's like, good. Junkies posting new late testimonials. Yeah, I keep doing that. Even this year. So what the fuck? If I keep posting new late testimonials and I'm the only one that can do it, then who cares? The smear campaigner is just a fucking hater. He's a loser. I mean, you kind of get turned off because of a fucking loser, right? The guy's a loser. It's like, do your fucking homework. He doesn't even fucking show up, this half Latino guy. He literally shows up for like 17 days out of like 37. Like Kaizen is like 7 days of social skills flow drill and 30 days of body language. He shows up 17 days, like nearly half. What the fuck? You expect to get results? He still pulled a woman home and fingered a virgin. It's not like he didn't get any results. What the fuck is he talking about? What a fucking loser. This is what happens when you don't take responsibility. You're a narcissist. But I digress. But what I'm trying to say is that the first hidden secret is why Romantic Flirts does not work in a bad economy for Daygame. Since it doesn't get students laid anymore for testimonials during 2025 and 2026 tariff era. Let's see. Okay, so let's talk about that. 2025 and 2026 is a tough year, isn't it? Game Global, UMP, has switched out of Daygame into night game. Their mystery method doesn't work. Other coaches cannot get students laid, so they just double down on like, oh yeah, it's Indian hate or some other bullshit. They just double down. They make you feel bad. And when you feel like shit about yourself, you don't even want to approach, or you have to take a boot camp. But there's no more late testimonials from boot camps or boot camp documentaries since 2021. So how the fuck, let me ask you guys a question. If you've never seen a boot camp documentary beyond 2021, how are you supposed to get laid during a bad economy? But it's magical thinking, right? But he's my race. Therefore, yeah, I'm going to get results. It's like, how do you know? Oh, he's black, Justin Wade. You Romantic Flirts, right? This is the results before. But how do you know it's not a job scam? He's been caught in a job scam. And also on the Vice, right? When women says like, I'm only here for my money. That's the only reason why I'm here, before he was canceled. Even Vice did not know about the seeking arrangements connection. You see what I'm saying? The big idea here is that if you do Romantic Flirts, then you fit into a boyfriend and girlfriend frame. But since you don't fit there, most of us don't. We're short ethnics. You know, we're not like a high status for the race. Asians are not exactly high. Look at Vancouver. This is the place outside of Asia that has the most Asians. The more Asians is here, the harder it is for shorter Asians. Because women, or girls, I should say, the girls from grade 1 to grade 12, they had Asian classmates that they ignored. Outside of K-pop, right, and Koreans, they have ignored all the other Chinese. They spent 12 years ignoring Chinese. So how are you supposed to stand out? if you're not husband material or whitewashed and fit into the tribe and talk like a white man? How are you supposed to fit in? You don't fit in. You understand that? You don't fit in. So you have to start boosting your height, and you got to use the whitewash fashion. You got to use the Elite 30 and Elite Tonality Mastery. And you need to use the Elite Access for the Social Skills Flow Drill. You need to max out in Vancouver. That place, 10% of people in Vancouver are in a relationship from 18 years old to 39 because expensive city. This is New York expensive and Hong Kong. The three most expensive places for median income in the world is Vancouver, Hong Kong, and New York in the whole world. These are the most expensive places in the whole world. So I can get students laid from Hong Kong. I get many students laid from New York. Vancouver, I still get many people laid too. But Vancouver is the hardest, harder than New York. New York is harder than Hong Kong. Hope that makes sense. But it's not the easiest countries, but I still get people laid from these places. People from Hong Kong do not make video testimonials. As soon as they get laid, they block me. They're very selfish. I can't generalize entire ethnicity. I can say about pickup artists. But as soon as they get laid in Hong Kong, fuck, I don't hear from them again. It's just like, don't be emotionally retarded. That's ungrateful. If you got laid, make me a video testimonial so I can like counter Jan lifestyle, who doesn't get people laid in Vancouver. He gets nobody laid. He only has like one laid testimonial from a course online from somebody, but his night game works. His day game does not work in Vancouver. Ridiculous. So, all right. It's a chat disconnected and I was reconnected. So since you don't fit into the boyfriend-girlfriend frame, you might use alcohol in the bedroom and heavy bedroom escalation, as they teach in their boot camp for romantic sexual flirts. So you see that? Because you don't fit in the boyfriend frame. You are 5 foot, like you are a 5 foot something ethnic, right? Does that make sense? You're short ethnic, and it's just not enough to get you results. So you have to use alcohol because she has objections. And they're really 6 frames: fuckboy frame, boyfriend girlfriend frame, friend zone social circle frame, husband material frame, the sugar daddy frame, and number 6, high status frame. You gotta be high status, as they tell you. Really? Is that really working? Is that really working for the students? High status? I don't think so. I mean, not everyone has a status, and when you go home from the boot camps, you don't have the same status. Has a status, and when you okay, good. I just want to make sure it's still working. So, all right. So this is important because if you want to fit in the husband material frame, because all women wants to get married one day, you're like, people don't understand the husband material frame. When you tell them about the husband material frame, they're like, what do you mean, Sean? What do you mean husband material? What do you mean by whitewash? What I'm trying to say is that, yes, the boyfriend-girlfriend frame. If you look at a social circle, right? If they're not meeting from Code Approach or Night Game or Tinder, if they met from a social circle, and most of the time, women will have like a bunch of orbiters, male friends. They're called orbiters. They orbit her as a strategy to be in the third frame, the friend zone frame, the social circle frame. Do you understand that? And then once in a while, she might pick the tallest guy in the social circle and fall in love with him over time. However, if she doesn't do that, she goes on the outside of the social circle. She meets a guy, a 6 foot tall guy, usually good looking guy. And then all the other guys in the social circle, the orbiters, they get upset that she's in a relationship. They wasted all the time hanging around with her, being her in proximity. Does that make sense? Because the other guy fit in the boyfriend and girlfriend frame, but he's tall and he has like, he's above 5'9", and he has like, you know, some protector status. But that was before the tariff. You don't fit into that frame. You understand that? You're too short. You're 5'6", you're 5'7", you're ethnic. Good luck fitting the boyfriend girlfriend frame in like Vancouver. I mean, you're not going to stand out if you're Asian. Does that make sense? And my Indian students, you see them continuously getting laid. There's 5 lay testimonials already for one of the students and 2 for the other this year. They're all dress husband material frame. They don't actually try to be like, you know, boyfriend girlfriend frame. That does not work. They tried romantic flirts before. Now they're stuck. They only can make it to like, oh, I hooked the set. They could barely get a phone number. They go, hook the set with romantic sexual. Because all these gamey lines, you know, Oh, you have a creative and artistic vibe. Oh, you're not an artist. Oh, that's they go like this. Oh, that's bad. So what do you do then if you're not an artist? What's bad? What do you like? What the fuck is that? And then they start doing push pulls. They start doing some DHV stories. They start doing some self amusements, more push pulls, romantic flirts, and they can't even get a fucking phone number. Never mind Insta date. It's like, but they're gamey as shit. There's no skills. There's no social skills. There's no social calibrations. They're hunching like crazy. There's no emotional control. They're not whitewashed tonality. That's 7.5 points. Does that make sense? Is it starting to make sense? So you got to fit into the husband material whitewash frame because all women wants to get married, including the modern women that you see on TikTok. They're like, oh, where's all the good men gone? Why are men not approaching us anymore? Well, listen, all these women that are histrionic cluster B type narcissists, modern women, the ones who are 30 years old and no man wants them anymore because they have such high expectations. It's the same thing with China. They call them the leftover women. These women are demanding high bride prices. These feminist-like women makes a lot more money than the Chinese men over there, and they're demanding a high bride price. And they're like, "Why should we choose you over somebody that's 20 years old? She's more fertile than you." But they're so narcissistic. They always believe there's a Prince Charming on the other side. Most of these women are desperate to get married. They want it so badly. They're lonely. Once they reach 30 years old, their whole bone structure changes. Does that make sense? The women, they look like they have an older skeleton. Despite all the makeup and stuff, most guys that are MGTOW will just look at them and then she will try to like wink at him. And then the guy would just walk away and just goes back to looking at his phone. And she's like, where's all the men not approaching? Why are they turning MGTOW? Why are they password bros? Like all this bullshit. They're desperate for a husband material. All women wants to get married and procreate. That's their biology. But in China, right? Some of them is too late. Once they reach 30 and above, they're like 36 or something. No guy ever wants to like be with them. They're any narcissism, cluster B personality are wiped out from the evolutionary scale or the evolutionary cycle. Does that make sense? So even if you have cluster B and you have too much cortisol, you're wiped out. This is not a fair game. This is like the survival of the fittest with the less cortisol. I'm not saying height matters that much, but I'm just saying statistically, you need to compensate. It's called compensation theory. You need to have something going for you. So if you're 5'6" and you have like a triple chin, but John, I want to get laid, but can you approach? No. You're avoidant. Okay. You're a procrastinator. So you can't build the skills. Really? But you want a 9 out of 10. Oh, you don't want 8 out of 10. You want 9 out of 10. But she needs to stay with you. You're you're like what, like 3 out of 10 in looks? I mean, I'm at least like not that bad. I'm at least 6 or something. But you're like 3. Come on now. Really? You're 3 out of 10. But you demand so much. You have like 5-figure debt, but now you're buying a house. You're Indian, but you're buying a house now. After you clear your debt, you learn how to do it. Now you're buying a house. Now you're a 6-figure debt. It doesn't make any sense. Do the math. Math is not mathing. So if you try to fit in the boyfriend and girlfriend frame during a bad economy and rely on getting her drunk because you don't fit in the boyfriend frame, she will resist in the bedroom. And then when you will not get laid, when she kicks you off the bed and then runs towards the door and says, I have to go home, you're like, well, what the fuck? I use alcohol. I escalate hard. Why doesn't that work? With romantic flirts. Most of the people using romantic flirts or romantic sexual, they don't get laid because they don't know about the bedroom crutch. They don't know about the bedroom crutch. But when you look at the infields, all of them has a big bottle of champagne on the side of the nightstand. If you remember correctly, for your Mandela effect, they all have a big bottle in the nightstand. What does that tell you? Without the alcohol, that was what got their boot camp suits laid. At least a lot of them. How could it work? The boyfriend and girlfriend frame does not work anymore. Statistically speaking, this is a like you don't want to die on this hill, right? Where you think, oh, I got to use romantic flirts. You don't want to die on this hill. Does that make sense? Long time no see. Hey, what's up? So, let's see here. Boss Mill 317. Is this Mill Magadosi or something like that? Are you that guy? That Middle Eastern guy? So Or are you somebody else? I cannot remember. Or are you like one of my black students? I can't remember. Or are you like are you the guy that got laid with that Justin Wayne thing? You're like the only civilian. You're like you're like 6 foot something, and then you're like 300 pounds. I can't remember. Right? Enlighten me who you are. How do we meet? Or are you just a fan? But anyways, I was saying the second hidden secret is romantic flirts conflicts with Elon Musk's five principles or the algorithms. So Elon Musk believes that there are five algorithms to be successful in multiple fields. He calls it the five algorithms. So the main thing to understand here is that number one, be less dumb. Romantic flirts is dumb as shit. If it's not getting people laid, right? Then it's already considered dumb. You always want to question, where does this idea originate from? Who planted the seed in your head? Whose authority did you give and became a sheep and worship when you use optics? That your brain has opened up and says romantic flirts is the only way to go. You got to question, where did this come from? Elon Musk needs to know exactly where it comes from. Why is this idea important? Why do we need to have mats underneath this engine or something like that? Who came up with the idea? He wants to know the exact engineer that came up with that bullshit. So be less dumb. By using romantic flirts or even romantic sexual, even 1% romantic flirts and 99% sexual, you are being dumb because this is the wrong frame. This statistically does not work anymore during a bad economy. For example, it might come from Justin Wayne, right? Because, he's not using romance because, you want to be like a boyfriend and girlfriend frame because, like they meet in a social circle and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, does that make sense? So at first they hug each other and then they hold hands eventually after a few months. And then afterwards they kiss, right? And they say, I like you, and I like me, right? Same pageology, right? Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it. Like that's how Justin Wayne talks like, right? He always looks so guilty. He's always like he looks like he's like he always looks like he's scamming and allegedly. And he has a hand in the cookie jar, right? He got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. So I was like, yeah, like I'm looking guilty as shit, right? That's how Justin Wayne talks like, I always look guilty as shit. He always feels super guilty over shit like that. And that's why he wear glasses because he gotta hide it and stuff. That's how you create like a Justin Wayne impression. High five. Oh, you got high five for that. Oh, you got half hug for that. Oh yeah. So let's hold hands, right? Let's interlock fingers. Like, oh, okay. Let's kiss afterwards, and then like you know, yeah, like yeah. So number two, right? Remove unnecessary steps. My students do not use romantic flirts because they don't fit in the boyfriend and girlfriend frame. I mean, what the fuck? So it's like you look at Elon Musk, right? Whenever he bought Twitter, right? Or X, what did he do? First thing he does is cut all the fucking woke employees. You gotta cut, cut, cut. And when somebody earlier saying like, oh, you used to like do a little bit of romantic flirts and stuff like that. Well, that was in 2015, right? 2017 already cut a lot of shit. 2018 doesn't even work very well, you know. So Elite 30 was what got me late. I mean, Elite 30 is what got a lot of the Asians late. Elite 30. Does that make sense? Without Elite 30, then Asian students did not get laid. But before that, if it's just game, I'll be honest, since 2012 to 2017, before Elite 30 came out, it came out in 2017 or 2018 for Elite 30. I didn't get a single Asian student laid because they have such low SMV. Does that make sense? So, yeah, forget XYZ. You broke my heart. Oh, she forgets I flirt. You can use, or even the playbook you use that broke my heart. Don't do any heartbreaking and shit like that. This is just the Old Testament from the Elite playbook. It's there, but the only reason why, if you don't have my real version of it, the one from the Elite Bundle Resurrections, it has the commentary criticizing and updating your mindset. It has a different commentary on the beginning of every video. So either you have the old version or you try to acquire it in the wrong way. That's why you're stuck. So, but that's the Old Testament. So you're looking at older version. I was testing every system. So I've tested over like I don't know, like over 50 systems, 3 months each, ever since 2021. I started with NLP, right? Out seduction fast. Does that make sense? And then afterwards, I learned all the different systems afterwards. But for many years, I've learned like all sorts of stuff. David D'Angelo stuff. I've learned like that's the generation two, right? What's the other guy's name? Also David X. Um, the other guy is like he's always I can't remember Dave Wagnat. I've learned from a lot of people. Generation three, simple pickup, London Daygame, right? RSD. Generation number four, right? It's more like derivatives of that. Generation five is does that make sense? I learned from all of them. I tested all of them. And most of it don't work. It's just the stuff I learned from my Pakistani mentor is what makes it work. The naturals. And then he introduces me to like 11 other naturals. His other wingman was a tall German guy who's good looking, looks like a runway model, but he's like, can you believe John actually says like, I'm good looking. That's the only reason why that he gets results. He's like, can you believe that? He said that to my Pakistani mentor. My Pakistani mentor is like, yeah, I mean, that's true, right? He's like, what do you mean? You are a good looking tall white guy. He's like, really? Duh, you dumb motherfucker. Say, of course. What do you think? If you're short, right? What a Pakistani mentor said to him. But that was another wingman who taught me a bunch of other stuff too. And then I have other wingmans too who are white. They're 5'9", but a little bit older guy. He was getting women that were like 10 out of 10 for the body, 8 out of 10 for the face. They have a bit of a butter face, like 7.9, but the body is like 10 out of 10. Like fitness models kind of women. This pudgy looking guy, and he was competing against my Pakistani mentor. My Pakistani mentor absolutely destroyed him when he came back to the mansion. 10 years ago in Vancouver, he got laid with a woman behind a dumpster. And he was like really good when he was younger. But he was a natural, but he had this inner game issue about aging. But he taught me that women always look for one thing that they can disqualify you with. All the naturals have taught me different things. Pakistani mentor taught me the whitewash tonality. He says the biggest secret from his dark skin, right, is that as soon as he opens his mouth, because he's a whitewash tonality, he has a magic trick. His skin color disappears. They think he's white. I've learned a lot of different stuff. Different scent for evolutionary psychology. When you get laid, you have a different pheromone. And then he reverse engineer all the colognes and stuff. We only found one that works. Right? I can't show you what it is, but I have it over there. But we have all sorts of secrets, all sorts of fashion secrets, all sorts of stuff like that. The pants came from my Pakistani mentor. But a lot of his style doesn't work like that well for my students. Only he can do it. He's a bit of a psychopath. Perfect social skills. So I learned a lot of different things from naturals. He still sexualizes it, but he doesn't over text. He actually texts women that because he can always get a reply all the time because his day game is so rough. He almost doesn't care what she thinks. He's willing to walk away, even willing to insult her. He doesn't give a shit. He acts like the high value alpha male, the only one of his kind. Well, he still has a $3 million mansion, so that helps too. But I learned some stuff in social skills. He says social skills is it is like day game mastery is social skills. He can socialize with everybody. Social skills flow drill. He's even better than me at it. Better than any of my students. This is like he's like apex predator of day game. And I saw his girlfriend. He has 3 of them at a time, and they're like 10 out of 10 and 9 out of 10. Better looking than Andrew Tate's girlfriends that he tried to, you know, the lover boy method shit. So, I have the playbook, but you should discontinue the playbook. No, I'm not discontinuing it. It has the commentary on it, disqualifying the whatever. Maybe you stole the playbook, so therefore you got the wrong version. You don't have the most latest version because the latest version has like over like 20 updates. I used to update called firmware updates. I put the date of what changed. I changed the course 20 subtotal times. You don't have the same version as that. Is your SMV chart the same? Yeah, exactly the same. Looks out of 10, money out of 5, status out of 10. Social skills 2.5 points, social calibration is 2.5 points, emotional control 2.5 points, and game 2.5. 20 out of 35. The only difference is that during the tariff era, your emotions can be minus 2.5. That's the only one that can go below 0. So that's why it's leeching points away from other categories. But the elite playbook stays because it is the right version that criticizes romantic flirts. In the commentary, make sure you have the right one. Remember, by you acquiring the wrong version, you're only shooting yourself in the foot. It's misleading you. The right version would tell you what has changed over the years. Does that make sense? Is an updated, newer version. It tells you directly not to do that. But this is the Old Testament. This is how it was done before. Please look at the old way so you can see the difference. I think the Elite Playbook is good because Latinos with a little bit higher SMV, if they play a huge numbers game, they can still get laid with it. If they're not coachable, they're unteachable cases. I had a guy who got married and also cheated on his wife on the side, and he also became a father, but he got laid with the Elite Playbook in 2025. So we should not get rid of it. Was it 2024, 2025? I don't remember, but he got laid with it. So it does work just fine. It's just you need a huge volume because it's only game. This is traditional game. At least we want to have some of the traditional game in there. It briefly talks about the arrow science near the end. But to learn the most of it, you learn from Elite Access. Some of the dating stuff is still in the Elite Playbook. If you minus the romantic flirts, it still works just fine. Does that make sense? But it is good to have as an encyclopedia. I'm not going to disable it. You get that with the third payment. First one, Elite 30, is Elite 30 from Hard Case to Hero. It comes with one Skype. The Skype is where you know your mistakes. Number 2 is Elite Access, part 2 or 3. That's where you learn the social skills flow drill. And you get to correct a lot of mistakes from Elite 30, or also learn the Krav Maga or the martial art program, not just the basic training. And then number 3 is Elite Tonality Mastery, brand new. You guys don't know Elite Tonality Mastery because if you acquire my course incorrectly, there's no way you can actually buy Elite Tonality Mastery because you'll be cut off from it if you don't have it in my PayPal invoice for the other ones. So I'm 6 foot from black guy and make 60K a year. What is my SMV? Oh, I remember who you are now. So you're that guy, right? Who just keeps glazing yourself, right? You're that guy. I remember who you are now. Now I remember who you are. And you just got to keep glazing yourself and stuff like that. I think your SMV will be decent. I think your style game might be outdated. I think with the tariff, it may not affect you as much. You might do okay, but not as good as before. The few years ago when I was on YouTube Live, you probably had better results. Now it's a little bit harder for some reason because you don't have Elite Tonality Mastery. So your game is just like 2.5, but some of your emotions, right? Even at 60K, if you have debt, most of my black students, they have 5-figure debt. I don't know why, but it's just a statistic. But if you do have 5-figure debt, you may weather that shit. If that happens, like I'm saying, I still respect my black students, but they always have debt. I don't know how that's possible. Most of them, at least 95% of them. But if you had that, it doesn't matter if you make 60K. It'll still affect your tonality. That could be what's missing. Body language, social skills, but your game and emotions may not be enough because it's affected by the emotions. 60K does not make your money category high. It just puts you at like 1 out of 5. Maybe, unless you're making 100K, then you're 2 out of 5. You're making millions, then you're $1 million, and you're 3 out of 5. You're making multi-million at 4 out of 5. You make 10 million, 5 out of 5 for the category. Does that make sense? So my students do not use romantic flirts because they don't fit in the boyfriend-girlfriend frame. Number 3, they don't optimize what does not need to be optimized. What I mean by that is that romantic flirts, no matter how much you adjust the ratio of it, maybe 90% sexual and 10% romantic, or maybe 50-50. It doesn't matter how much you adjust it. Do not optimize what needs to be optimized because number 2 of Elon Musk says to remove unnecessary steps. So therefore, Elon Musk says that you must remove so much, like you must doge it so much to the point where you delete like so much, you have to bring 10% back. If you delete 10 things, you have to bring 1 back. Some people don't cut enough. That means if you cut too much away from a system, for example, I don't have push pose in my system. I don't have DHV stories. I don't have fucking self-amusement, even though they could if they want to. I don't have fucking disqualification. I don't have romantic flirts. I don't have like half-assed UMP sexualization nonstop. I don't have like fucking like all this clown shit. And guess what? I only have teasing. I deleted 10 of the things and then I had to bring 1 back. You see that? Only teasing is in my system, but my students are not using it lately, they don't get rejected because when your husband material whitewashed, it's hard to get rejected during this economy because you're the only one that looks like they have money. It has to be perceived. Why would it lower because of inflation? Yeah, because cortisol is a stress hormone, right? It can affect your voice and make it sound like you talk faster. You start sighing a little bit and you could be affected. So if you had like that or anything, it can definitely affect your voice and you'll stutter more. Before, if you came to the time machine to now, the cortisol does not stack up. Does that make sense? So in 2025, the tariff started in August. And then February, the tariff number 2 started. Iran war, higher inflation can affect your state of mind. Because even if you make 60K, you can still be affected because the cost of living goes up. More of your money is taken away. It can still affect your psychology. If you owe some money, like 5-figure debt, maybe you owe 12K, right? For you, I feel like you might owe like 8 or 9K or something, a little bit. Then you get stressed out because you're the Maslow chart of human needs. So if we look it up, just to make sure it's not bullshit, Maslow chart, hierarchy of needs, just to make sure I'm not bullshitting. All right. This is a chart called Maslow chart of human needs. So what does it say? On the very bottom, breathing, food, water, sex, sleep, homeostasis means like temperature control and excretion. If you don't have these things handled, right? These are your basic human needs. If you're in debt, you're in the very lowest one, which is called the physiological needs in this chart in the very bottom. Number 2, security of body of employment, resources, morality of family, health, and property, right? You own a house, you have a good health, which a lot of you don't. With cortisol stress, right? You get double chinned, you get fatter, you lose your hair. And then security of employment, some of you are not making as much money. And resources, morality, you don't have like, you're too woke and stuff like that. You will always be part of the bottom need. You won't be on the second highest. Does that make sense? That's the only reason why a lot of people are stuck because the cortisol is from the Maslow chart of human needs. It's not something I'm making up. It's actually a chart behind this. So here's a better picture, but you guys can look it up, Maslow chart of human needs. It's not bullshit. I didn't invent this. It's psychology. So that can affect your tonality. So no matter how hard you try, you're always going to get stuck. And with romantic flirts, game over. So no matter how much you optimize romantic flirts, it doesn't matter about the percentage. Like just and there's your same race, you're always going to get stuck because you don't fit in the boyfriend girlfriend frame in 2026 or 2025. Never mind 2024 when the inflation started. You don't fit into these frames. Does that make sense? For most of you, over there, I know that mill, right? You might fit in the boyfriend frame because you're taller and stuff and you're black. But right now, during a tougher inflation, when people are moving to their physiological needs, do you fit in as well? I'm just saying. The results that you gotten before will be more of a struggle now. You won't know why. You still maybe wonder why is it harder because of the cortisol and the Maslow chart of human needs. I think I answered that very well. So let me continue. So number 4, accelerate the results. When you look at my students, they've been going through elite Daygame first steps. The Indian guy got laid. Then he went to Skype. Then he got laid. He got a Vietnamese guy. He took elite 30. He got laid. And then he got elite. He got 2 lays. Now he's on using elite tonality mastery to hide the cortisol in his voice. He showed me one infield recently, and I said, that sucks. Don't you remember the first chapter of elite tonality mastery? You have broken almost every rule. Every single step in there. What time is it? I said, you have broken every single step in elite tonality mastery. That's why you're stuck. And then he's like, yeah, I remember. I said, no, you have to go through it 6 times. So this is what's different, Mills, this year and last year. Because of the cortisol, most people get a double chin now. So you're 5'4" and you have a double chin, but right? That puffiness around here, this double chin is cortisol. It has to be sharp jawline. Or else women, when they see that, they say like, the only reason why they're afraid of cortisol is because it shows that you don't have a survival value. If you cannot handle the stress, it means no matter how good looking you are or how tall, if she sees you with a double chin and she has, you know, procreated with you and has a baby with you, procreation, that baby is going to inherit the autism traits of cortisol. That's bad genes being spread. So she's scared to death over bad genes. It doesn't matter how good looking you are. The tariff in 2025 and 2026 have changed the game forever by leeching points away from the game because of the Maslow chart of human needs. You guys are seeing this. It's all scientific. It's not like I'm making this stuff up. I have charts and stuff behind all this stuff. And I show you tonality is 38% of your tonality is being affected by the cortisol. So if you don't have elite tonality mastery, you can't get your foot in the door for most of you. Hope that makes sense. So this does not, okay, so basically romantic flirts does not accelerate the results because people no longer get laid during their boot camp stuff, and also debunks the inner coaching and all that other shit. Without using alcohol and the crutches and heavy bedroom masculation, like you're almost wrestling with her like a jiu-jitsu match, trying to pin her, which should be illegal, by the way, when she's drunk. When you're doing that kind of thing in the boot camp, or the coach is doing that kind of thing, or else you're doing that in their boot camps, there's no lay testimonials that can be produced with the inner coaching things because women are too stressed out. They will kick you off the bed. They'll run towards the door. Unless you have a lock at the door and you keep her away from leaving, which is unethical, most immoral thing I've ever heard in my life. Unless you have a lock on the inside of the door, she's just going to fucking leave. She'll put on her shoes, open the door, and get the fuck out of there. And then say, fuck, they can't collect that. All that is dismissed. All that's debunked. They never knew what they're talking about. They're just delusional all this time. No, but they're right? They're so right. They're not delusional. Yeah, but now after 2025 and 2026, when I'm still getting students laid, and I'm nearly at 700 laid in PO testimonials, you can check my testimonial page. A lot of people got laid this year in PO. I'm the only one that can do it for my student results. I'm the only one. If I'm the only one, then I know what I'm talking about. That means you better do it my way. You don't get brainwashed and you resist and you be stubborn and you fight back and say, I want to do it my way. Well, good luck. I mean, you're fucking 5'6", right? And you're like an ethnic, you're like a short black guy or something. And then you have no memory because of cortisol, you know, double chin, losing your hair, losing muscle mass, or losing your memory. You have no memory whatsoever. Even if you're not double chin, there's always like one thing that you don't have. But you have no muscle mass. You're not losing your hair. But then again, it's like, whatever. But it's just like, if you have 3 out of 4 cortisol traits, it's game over. Right? Just give up. No, but I want to use Tinder. Yeah, we know Tinder is not going to work for Asians. Come on now. That's why they go to third world countries for ABCs. They even center their shorts, right? Oh, yeah, it doesn't work in the United States. So, well, I mean, why bother, right? If you're Asian, you should be doing day game. If you're Asian, right, you should not be doing night game unless you do Elite 30. Do day game to boost your night game and Tinder for your dates and stuff because you're overpowered. Night game is only 15 out of 35 to get over the line of fuckability. There's no social skills because you can't talk in a loud nightclub when women are drunk and down to fuck. And you cannot have emotional control because it's loud, they're down to fuck. The only thing you can have is game and also body language. Right? And the game is trying to escalate afterwards. Yeah, but that's no longer working for ABC students in Toronto. For a night game, they're only pulling women home because she's too stressed out. She's way too stressed out. Canada's in a recession, a liberal recession. How the fuck in a liberal recession are you supposed to get laid when she's stressed out by wokeness? How? There's an actual recession in Canada. It's not a technical recession. It's a recession. Liberal policies. How? My student can get laid in Toronto. So how you explain that for Daygame? So how you explain that? How is that possible? Because it's the only system that still works. It's the only system. In the whole fucking world, that still works. So, bro, I look like a bodybuilder. Good for you. It's good for you. You look like a bodybuilder, but so what? Is your results skyrocketing? You go after like Filipino women, right, or Chinese a lot. So is that really skills, or are you just like hypergamy? But is that still working as well as before? I think that is going to be more of a struggle than before. That's what I'm saying. I think it's more of a struggle than before for you. So you can't glaze yourself anymore, and you know that. That's why you're not saying anything about it. So, okay, as I was saying, it does not accelerate the results with romantic flirts because that's the fourth principle. They haven't posted any new late testimonial. The biggest secret is not how much you worship the coach. It's more like, can the coach still get the students laid? If my system is not stopping in 2025 and 2026, I just need more students, and most of them are getting laid if they come here. And I don't take on like fucking 5'3" ethnics that has a double chin anymore, where half their fucking hair is receded, and they're like 5'3" or something, and they're over like 200 fucking 60 or 70 pounds or 280 pounds. Fuck off. How can you be that short and that heavy? That doesn't make any sense. I'm 167 pounds. I feel a bit heavy. What the fuck? I feel like a fat ass at 160, like 168. You know, at 5'7", I feel like a fucking fat ass. But how can you be that short, like here, and be like more than 250 pounds? What the fuck? Big belly and this, like, no muscles. What woman in their right mind is going to like that? It's not about height. It's not about height. If you didn't have the cortisol and you had like good looks and you were not affected, your tonality is good and you have good social skills, social calibrations, emotional control, you will still get laid. You know, if you're whitewash and you're Indian and you're that short, you still can become 4 out of 10 for perceived natural status. That's how my Indian students are able to do it. If my Indian students are whitewashed, they're 4 out of 10. If they're Indian washed, they'll be 2 out of 10 in the United States. But in Canada, they'll be like 1 or 0. Because current events can also affect the current perceptions. As much as I like my Latino students, and so many of them late in 2025, if ICE has came back twice because of Donald Trump, it can lower your social standing. Does that make sense? I don't want to take things out of context, but that's the truth. You used to be 7 out of 10. Latinos, just use the elite playbook, already gets laid. Boyfriend, girlfriend frame. Just have to do like 500 approaches, you get laid automatically. But now it's like, you know, even in 2025. But, however, now it's like lower. Does that make sense? It's like 7, 6, 5. Now it's like 5 out of 10. Just 1 point above whitewash Indians. That's why Indians have to be whitewash husband material. That boosts your points. If you're Indian, you look black, you get 8 out of 10. If you're confident, tall, black, and you have some muscles. If you look like Latino, you get 5 out of 10. So they have a sliding scale. Hey, Marco, what's up? What has changed from 2025? Yeah, 2025, you've gotten like 3 lays, but you got 2 lays with my coaching. You got a Ukrainian, and you got another Latina mix or something. So what changed? Memory, compression, and adaptation has changed. So we have new drills to boost your memory. You don't have a good memory, it's wiped out. You and the other 21-year-old Gen Z. Now he's 22 years old. You guys were getting laid last year, but you guys are not joining this year. Maslow chart human needs. You already, with the neural pathways I taught you, you got a girlfriend, but she's not all white. She's half Latina, half white. So that's why you're not joining elite access. I understand that. Your human needs are being met. You can't move up until she moves out. So what changes that? Memory compression. So the memory, Marco, is that the students, when they know all their mistakes and they're in fields, they have to make a pinned video on top of the WhatsApp or Signal that we're using right now. And they have to play that 20 times, right? To be external memory, just to force it into their fucking brain, right? And force it in there. When you have no memory last year, that's why I learned a difference. We fixed the memory. Memory can also get people laid. Remember when you went through elite tonality mastery, Marco? You went through it 6 times each. You took a while, right? You're a little bit slow, but You went through every single video 6 times, right? And you took notes from me. You wrote it down on a piece of paper in your car. And then you got laid afterwards. Does that make sense? That's what's different, is that memory boosting and shoving it in your brain is something that's in 2026. In 2025, a lot of bad students, unteachable cases, they had no memory and they had double chin. Now they're no longer allowed to join the training. So that's what's changed, is the memory boosting. We still have the compression, memory compression. You still do the drills and stuff like you do before. You compress it. You've done that before. And you have retained the drills, right? And that's what still got you the girlfriend, but you lose your skills eventually. You know that? By the end of this year, you'll have no more skills. You just go out there and you get stuck. But you still had a residual from 2025 skills. In 2026, you still got that lay. Half Latina, half white. That's why it wasn't all white. But that's still there, right? Compression. But the memory boosting and adaptation, to force the adaptation, right? That means you have to change the neural pathways and change the way you're doing things. It's not just compression and yelling at you and then doing discipline shit and then getting you that result. We also need to boost the memory. So there's a huge memory boosting. Does that make sense? That is the big difference. That's what's working this year. Memory is very important. So you got to make sure you get your money in order, Marco. If you don't have your money in order, your cortisol will wipe out your memory. Like your other classmate, he was in university and then he got like a job, a tech job. They did not pay him for the first year, so he got so much cortisol. His body started getting fatter. You know your old classmate, right? The 21-year-old Gen Z guy, Latino. He got too lazy and then he changed his priority, make Daygame last, right? Like an unteachable case. Then he's fucked. Maybe that should be the next video testimonial. Or I mean the next YouTube live. We talk about Marco. Is that okay to talk about you? And we talk about the other guy, the Gen Z guy. We should talk about you guys. Marco, you're 5'7", right? Or 5'8" or something, 5'7.5", somewhere like that. So you're about the height. People that are above 5'7" or something usually get results faster. So I hope that answers your question. All right. So as I was saying, number 5, right? You got to automate the drills. Marco's done the drills, but we're also using the memory boosting drills, right? To automate. We have external brain. He's like, John, what if other dating coaches start copying your idea? What if they start using this WhatsApp external brain? But because they're only focused on game category, looks, money, status, social skills, social calibrations, emotional control, and game, right? It's only focusing on looks, money, status, and game, and they try to boost the memory. There's not enough points for 20 out of 35 to get their students laid. But my students, they automate that, Marco, because they boost the memory. Does that make sense? Over and over, they play the video in double speed 20 fucking times in a row before every approach. Then play it 20 more times on WhatsApp at double speed. Second approach. Third approach, 20 more times. They heard it 60 fucking times, Marco. Fourth approach, 80 times. Get it? Fifth approach, 100 fucking times. They have heard all their mistakes. But just because they do that for other dating coaches, their game does not work anymore because the emotions are fucked. Doesn't matter. The whole game category is wiped out. They can copy the protocols, but they can't make it work. They cannot make it work. You need my insight to know what to put into that video. My analysis, my mental filter. You can't see your own mistakes. Only stubborn people will look at their own mistakes. And they think they're experts. And they'll say, oh, I got a 10 out of 10. But dude, I say, ChatGPT, what's the score of this woman that you got versus my other student that got like the same race of woman, black, stripper, 21 years old. They give this one 6.4 and this one like fucking like 7 point something, 7.6 to 8.2. There's a different score. It's like a different category. That's like 2 points up. You know? So it's like, what the fuck? ChatGPT can also guess my age too very well. Despite me looking younger to most of you by aesthetics, ChatGPT was able to determine my real age. So what the fuck? Also is able to determine my real looks. I even show them some of my old pictures. And they're like, you used to be better looking before, but not by much. But you're definitely 1 point up. So, but you had the same face all this time, the same structure. It's just more like cortisol or body fat, more puffier. But I digress. So automation is really important. So romantic flirts in game is not automation, is memory of mystery method game techniques with a romantic derivative. That's not going to work because if you don't use alcohol and heavy bedroom escalation or use status maxing, like Justin Wayne, job scams, get the women into the acting funnel and try to close them then, or you don't use like your nightclub promoter, got the lead from Daygame, but then use Instagram to status max, and you get her drunk at nightclub, and then you try to warm her up and bring her back home where you have more like women than guys. But that also uses alcohol and heavy bedroom escalation. It's not, you can get canceled for that too, using alcohol. Do not fuck around with alcohol. You could potentially get canceled easily. It's a very risky type of game. You'll get canceled easily. And never use it for alcohol. This is only like you can get away with it in third world country, in Europe or something. And maybe even in like Latin countries, but you cannot get away with it in North America. That's not going to work. That's the fastest way to get canceled. Do not use alcohol. She has to consent at her own free will. That's where the arrow science comes in. Maneuver, sexualize it to the maximum, to get the sexual objections out, and deal with the sexual objections, even if there's 3 or 4. Once they're all clear, she opens her legs because there's no more objections, like sales. Once all the objections are clear, they just buy, right? But it's the same thing. She buys in by opening her legs because you dealt with all the objections, but you only want to deal with the sexual objections. You don't want to deal with the fucking logistical or boyfriend, girlfriend objection. No, I got in a relationship, like she says, and I just broke up. You don't want to deal with that kind of shit. You want to deal with the sexual objections. Everything else is a waste of time. That's why you're all stuck. Because you guys don't know what you're talking about. Turns out all these years afterwards, only I get students laid over and over. I'm the only one, it turns out, that knew what they're talking about. And I say romantic flirts is the biggest bullshit I've ever heard in my life. This is some old shit that have expired. An old moldy bread that has died in 2021 and before. This game is washed out. Never use it. Even if you're black and you think you can use it. Being a boyfriend, girlfriend frame. With the cortisol maxing, it's going to be a lot harder. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Hide it out and automate. My students automate by doing drills and exercises that the unteachable cases cannot do. It does not involve romantic flirts. A social skills flow drill, social calibrations, and emotional control. It's almost like a martial art of the army. That's the cut down version. And now we're adding basic training, the 30-day challenge for Elite 30 for some of the guys who struggle, the impossible cases, the hard cases. They all have to learn Elite 30 first for the first month for basic training now. But if you are beyond that, like Marco, he can skip to the Krav Maga, the martial art aspect of the army, or the McMap, right, for Marine martial art. He can skip right to that, do the 4 things, right? And he'll be fine, do the drills for 4 things. Social skills flow drill, 45-degree body language, whitewash tonality, and then the arrow science, maneuver, sexualized objections, looping. That's how Marco gets laid all the time. He does the arrow science, So he does a lot of drills, and he remembers them for some reason. Because he's done it for like 5 years in a row. He's gotten pretty decent. So, but that's how my students get laid. I mean, Marco's over there. We can see him right there. So, okay, as I was saying, this means most guys do not fit in a boyfriend and girlfriend frame. Some of us are not above 5'9". And if you're in Vancouver and you're Asian, you will never fit in that frame. Because in Vancouver, or at least in BC, this is the place with the most Asians that are out of Asia in the whole world. They all moved to like BC, in the metro area, Richmond area, Vancouver area. Does that make sense? Most of the Asians have moved there. So if women or girls from grade 1 to grade 12 has 12 years of learning how to ignore Asian men as background noise, then what's going to happen is that when you try to do that shit and you try to do this RSD shit, they're just going to ignore you. They don't see you as a man to woman frame. They don't see you as a sexual being unless they're into K-pop. So what do you think about club? I don't have any like important opinions about clavicular. Because think about it this way, during a bad economy, it is minus 2.5, right? Let's say his looks is like 9 out of 10, right? You want to give it 10 out of 10? Let's give it 9 out of 10, okay? Let's say he's close to like being extremely good looking. So that's 9 points, right? He's white, right? So it's 10 points. So he just needs 1 point to get over that line of fuckability. But because he's autistic, he has no social skills. So he has 0 points. His body language, he's a bit of a cuck. He gets 0 points. His game is like shit. People laugh at it. So he's 0. And his emotions are minus 2.5. Does that make sense? So clavicular is close to like 16.5 points. And then, yeah, 16.5 points because of the economy, minus 2.5 points. Even if he has a decent amount of money, we can still add some money to his game, right? 16 points. We can say that we can give him 2 or 3 points. Even that will not put him over the line of fuckability. That's why he says it's like hard for Daygame and approaching. That's why he's so weird. He doesn't make the 20 out of 35. He might make 18 out of 35 or 19 out of 35 or 17 out of 35. Even with a money funnel, even if he has some status, right? Lifestyle and stuff like that, he doesn't make it over that line of fuckability. He'll be just like 18 or something. 18, 19. He'd just be like right below that line, despite all that looks. So that debunks looks theory. Guys, do the math here. I'm not bullshitting you. If we do the mathematics, it's like physics. I read Elon Musk's book, right, about how he sees the 5 principles. The reason why any of this stuff works for Elon Musk, why he can shoot the rocket to space and it can come back down to Earth and he can capture it with a crane, is because it works with physics. But this is a dating physics. 20 out of 35 is dating physics. You cannot debunk it. Night game is 15 out of 35. There's no social skills and there's no emotional control. Tinder is only 12 out of 35. It's a physics of dating and getting laid. 20 out of 35. Because it's physics. That's why romantic flirts doesn't work, because the emotions are minus 2.5 points. Any sort of game that you got with crutches, which is not that high, by the way, it's not the full 2.5 points. But if his looks, money, status, plus game, there's no social skills, social calibrations, emotional control. Let's do the mathematics. If a black guy, let's just say that, try to use romantic flirts. Let's say their game category is like, they got like, but without alcohol, right? Their game is only like 1.5, okay? But let's just be nice. Let's give it 2. Let's say the looks is all like, I don't know. Let's say their looks around 6. Let's say they're black. 8, right? 8 plus 6 is 14, I believe. I could be wrong. 14 points. And their game is like, this would be nice. 2, right? 16 points. Body language, 1 out of 10. 17 points. Social skills, 0.5. 17 points. And then they're minus like 2.5 points. It would be like 13.5 or something. Does that make sense? So even if you think you get over the line of fuckability using romantic flirts with a bad economy, even when you think you can get over the line of fuckability or close, it's no longer working because of the bad economy. Does that make sense? Even for a tall black guy. But if you're a short black guy and you have 3 out of 10 for a perceived natural status, now you're playing with very little points. Romantic flirts does not work. So I hope that makes sense, because this is physics, guys. This is something that is repeatable. It's a science. As long as it doesn't break the rules of physics or my E equals MC square, dating physics, as long as it doesn't break the 20 out of 35, then it does. You can see why the tariff has actually, because of the minus 2.5 points, because of the Maslow chart of human needs, minus 2.5, you're in the food, water, shelter, sex, procreation, all that other stuff, temperature control. If you're struggling with the basic human needs, you always get cortisol. When you have debt, you always have cortisol. So that's called the loser effect. That's where the double chin comes from. That's where your hair loss comes from. That's where you lose your muscle mass. That's where you lose your memory. Because these things are bench-loaded away. It makes it very hard for other day game coaches from Game Global, which is all focused on looks, money, status, plus game, and a little bit of vibing the emotions, which they no longer have. It's impossible for Game Global to get a day game late testimonial. That's why a lot of the coaches are quitting day game and they're teaching night game like UMP, or ABC is going to third world countries, Latin America. They're quitting night game to go to Tinder. And then you got Asian Lee, right? The scammer, where they get promoted by Game Global for a day game. But he has 0 day game late testimonials. Now it's all Tinder stuff. He has quit from day game to Tinder because he can't get anyone late for it. Game Global, the more popular coaches, they go against the physics, the dating physics of the line of fuckability. Therefore, you cannot get laid. You just do the math, do the physics. Even red pill cannot get laid, even if you boost all these points, just like clavicular for black pill, because of the tariff. If you take away the tariff and the economy gets better, a lot of this stuff would disappear and then it'll start to work again. So unless you have elite tonality mastery to mask the voice from the cortisol effects of it, does that make sense? But I kept this in my course as a third part on purpose. So you cannot get laid from it, because if you don't have my Elite 30 and Elite Access, you cannot buy Elite Tonality Mastery. I am gatekeeping this away from you. Marco has it. Marco's gotten so many lays from it over and over. Every year he gets at least 2 lays. 1 girlfriend, 1 fuck buddy, 2 lays. 2 girlfriends, 1 girlfriend, 1 fuck buddy. And sometimes they're Latinas and sometimes they're white. So Marco's done it. Does that make sense? No body language, day game. No, I mean, that's still part of the course, Marco. It's still part of the Krav Maga that you're learning. That's very important. But I'm just saying, body language without the elite tonality mastery. Elite tonality mastery gets your foot in the door. The arrow science is the game, plus the body language. And that's what gets you the results. Sorry. So, yeah. I was going to show you arrow science. I was going to grab arrow. I have an arrow, but it's downstairs. If I want to go to the bathroom for a second, then grab like arrow or something. But this is the way to see it, Marco. Let me see if that box has an arrow over there. I have a crossbow. But do I have arrows in here? Oh yeah, I have an arrow. Never mind. Let me see it. I'm not sure if it's showing up, but the box is not showing up. Let me open the box. Nice, there's 5 arrows in here. Let me just open this. All right. Let's open these arrows. All right. So here's 5 arrows. Let me put this back. So Marco. Okay, I'm pretty sure this is legal to own here. But for the arrow science, right? Imagine that arrow tip, right? I do have like a different tip for this one, is downstairs. But imagine the arrow tip, right? Usually have like a bullet-shaped tip, right? It punctures so fucking hard for this crossbow. It goes right through my target, which is kind of fucked up. But for the arrow tip, right? That's the Marco over here. For the arrow tip, this is the maneuver sexualized objections looping. It's like a triangle. Does that make sense? If I have more time, I can screw in a different bolt and I show you better. But here's the tip. This one's like a screw. It's not very like good, but it still penetrates hard. So my crossbow, I got to like cock it twice, right? For this one, just to shoot 1 arrow. So it takes more work, but it punctures so hard. It'll go right through like targets. But the arrow gets stuck. So this is maneuver sexualized objections looping, right? Does that make sense? So how long the arrow is, Marco, right here. Social skills flow drill, social calibrations, emotional control, and game, right? Does that make sense? 1, 2, 3, 4. Does that make sense, Marco? That's the body of the arrow So social skills flow drill and body language is still extending the length of it. That makes it easier to penetrate. The whitewash fashion over here is the arrow tip. Does that make sense? So for the arrow tip, try to take out one of these arrows. The feather over here is important because this is the V-shaped body. If it is too fat and bulky, and this thing's like over here, the arrow will not fly, right? When you penetrate the target, that's when you get laid. Does that make sense? So the arrow, you need to have the whitewash tonality, but also you need to not have a double chin. If you have a double chin, you used to have a double chin, Marco. I taught you how to get rid of it. That's secret. But we both got rid of our double chins because we know how to do it. And also, you got big belly and stuff. This will not fly. You need a whitewash tonality. You need a whitewash fashion and stuff in V-shaped body, right? Does that make sense? I made you work out. So that's what makes the arrow fly. Does that make sense, Marco? The reason why you're stuck is because of the economy. So when you're aiming the bolt gun of the arrow, right? Does that make sense? The reason why you're not able to hit the target as easily, even though you did hit something, you still got half Latino, half white this year. But I'm not counting that towards my testimonial. It's just residual skill from last year. You're going to lose a skill by the end of the year without practice. But you cannot aim the arrow. Does that make sense? It starts to shake for the bolt gun. Because of the bad economy, the inner game, right? Because of the Maslow chart of human needs, food, water, shelter, sex, procreation, all that stuff. Because it's shaky for the arrow, it'll always miss the target, so you can't pull for some of the people now. They could barely get a date. They're just shooting it away from the fucking target. Does that make sense? All these pieces are missing. Does that make sense? All these pieces are not there for the arrow. So this is called the arrow science. The inner game, making sure your money is correct. You got to make sure the money is in order. Otherwise, the arrow will not fly into the target. That's why people are missing. That's why Game Global, all these other people, when they shoot the arrow, they're going nowhere near the target because they're shaking too much. And before, when you were like, even without much social skills, right? They just have a little bit of game, right? They have a little bit of height, whatever. The arrow body can change a lot based on your race. If you're white, right, the whole thing becomes like a metal arrow or something. That's more penetrative. If you're tall and black, it becomes like a different material. When you're Asian, it becomes like very brittle wood or something, and it becomes shorter. Does that make sense? It's that simple. And if you use status maxing, right, you're using this with a compound bow gun, right? The compound bow shoots a lot harder. It has a bunch of extra pieces to the bow. Does that make sense? So what's happening is that when you're using status maxing, using the coach's compound bow, and then when you go back home, you no longer have that compound bow, then the game doesn't work anymore. Or when you try to use like you know, you don't have the social skills, you have a shorter arrow for romantic sexual or romantic flirts, and it used to penetrate in the past with a better economy because you're a tall black guy with a harder material. Does that make sense? You have a stronger wood or something like that, or stronger like something because of the race. And because you're tall and you have like a V-shaped body, you have muscles and stuff, and your protector status, the feather was bigger and it was easier to penetrate for being a tall black guy who's confident. But even though he has money problems, he was still able to penetrate. But now when you have the tariff, the arrow is shaky. Does that make sense, guys? So no matter how much you do it, if you do the physics and you do the math, there is no math that's going to get you guys laid consistently unless you're one of my students. Why is my students able to get multiple lays? Because they know something you don't know. If you do the physics for the arrow science, I'll leave this over here then. How's that? This is a good reminder. I'll just throw over here. The arrows, I can always just use it as an example. So does that answer your question, Marco? The arrow science that's gotten you laid over and over. So the body language is important to extend it. But I'm just saying basic training is also part of it too. That increases your skills. The more you shoot, the more you refine your technique from Elite 30. So people go through the whole thing from day 1 to day 30 to refine their shooting technique despite an inflation, just to be able to refine their shooting technique so it doesn't shake as much. But this is why I don't accept people that has double chin, receding hairline, losing like muscle mass and losing their memory because they cannot shoot the arrow because the cortisol is ruining the other aspects of it. So, does that make sense? How many hours a week the students have to put in for training? It's not for training, but you have to make more approaches this year, and you got to practice more. The practice can be shorter this year. It's more memory boosting from the WhatsApp video, but you still have to approach. That means one practice, one approach, right? To refine the technique. It's not like how much you do it. It's more like the memory boosting, Marco. I'm not sure if you can do it because you don't show up that often, but for you, you have to approach the same day that you practice. Before, you used to practice a lot and you approach very little, but you still get laid. Now you got to refine the arrow, your technique. So, so what do your students know that we don't? Well, they all know that I have some different charts. Okay. Number one, we'll talk about the first chart that goes with the 20 out of 35. We're a little bit off topic, but we're talking about automation for the drills, right? But it's more than the drills. Because Marco's asking, here's the question. What do they know that they don't know, right? Is that memory, compression, and adaptation, right? So for mills, you may just mass approach and remember techniques, right? But that's not effective. But what do my students do? They use the drills for compression, right? What they know is that if you do something for 30 days in a row, you build new neural pathways. It's like planting a seed, watering the seed with constant practice a little bit. Even if you don't see it sprouting up and getting poles and lays, you just keep showing up every single day. Even if it looks like nothing's happening, everyone sprouts up at a different time. Easy case, they get laid in 3 days. Plant sprouts quickly. Normal case, 3 weeks to 3 months. Hard cases, 6 months to whatever longer. Impossible cases, 9 months to a year. Unteachable cases, never. So therefore, there's a timing behind it, but you can jump one spot with a mindset playlist. They go through a mindset playlist with 26 videos. They write down 10 takeaways. And then after a week, we find out all their mistakes. Sebastian, the smear campaigner, has not finished the mindset playlist. It took him a month to finish it. He cannot do it. Bad mindsets. Oh, but he got results in Latin America. Good for him. Gives a fuck. So mindset is very important. So the mindset playlist, like a hard case, can become a normal case, jump one spot. Whenever they start bench holding and they crash out, cluster B style, they go back to being a hard case or unteachable case. Then they have to go through a mindset playlist audio again. They hard reset back to like normal case. So they can jump one spot. So the results can go faster. Does that make sense? They have the drills for compression because sometimes you need to water the plant. Some people, they take like 17 days for a Vietnamese guy, for Elite 30, and the plant sprouted up. That's what you don't realize, is that you don't have days in between the gaps of the coaching. They practice in front of the mirror and then go out there and they do it. It's like the army. What you don't know is that they train like an army at home and they go out there in the battlefield, in the field, or doing like their drills in practice, using a gun with simulation rounds. Simulation rounds is like a bullet. It still goes bang, right? But it shoots like a softer bullet, like a paintball bullet. They still practice out there. So it's not just mass approaching out there and getting shot down over and over until you get laid SMVing it. This one's more like they can get laid in less approaches as long as they do the mindset playlist, as long as they show up for 30 days. Because what happens if you don't water a plant mill? After 3 or 4 days, the plant dies, the seed. You got to germinate that shit until it sprouts and be patient. Everyone sprouts at a different time. Does that make sense? That's what you don't realize. But memory is also important too, because when you practice the drills like Marco has a muscle memory. Kind of like Marco can do salsa, right? Marco also has a muscle memory for the body language and a little bit of tonality. Marco sounds stressed when he talks to me, but when Marco's out there, his stress disappears around women. He actually sounds like a very confident guy. I don't know how that is happening, but Marco was able to disguise his cortisol. That's how he's able to get laid. But he's also knows the aero science. He has the whole aero system. But now there's a boost of memory. That means you'll be memorizing the technique on how to do it down to every detail, not just practicing with the body because the memory can be gone. Like I said, what else you don't realize is the 4 traits of cortisol. Number 1, memory loss. Number 2, Double chin. Number 3, muscle mass loss. And number 4, hair loss. These things can add to your arrow shaking, right? So even if you practice drills, but if you don't remember, you go back to day 1, you become the starting line guy. You don't want to be the starting line guy where you forget everything you've learned. You go back to the starting line. That is the worst type of students, is the starting line, the unteachable cases. Remember how everyone gets laid at different time, but unteachable cases, they will not get laid during the training period because they're doing it their way. They're not showing up and they're forgetting everything and they're inventing their own instructions. So when you put all these things together, 20 out of 35, the 4 traits of cortisol, memory, compression, and adaptation, right? How they adapt, either through memory boosting. Now you get this whole complete system, this new trinity. That's what you don't get. That's what's different from 2025 and 2026. This trinity of a system has become more evolved, and shooting the arrow has become more adaptable. And now there's a new component of remembering the techniques by boosting it, by forcing it down your brain so many times until you cannot forget, until it becomes an external brain. It's almost like having a neural link that tells you, oh, you're making a mistake in the field, correct this. And they're able to correct and adapt. The word's adaptation. Before, they used to adapt from drills, right? You don't use drills, but Marco does drills. But now they're also boosting their memory. Memory plus drills equals adaptation. Get it? Memory, compression, adaptation. How do you get to the adaptation? Is it memory or drills? Everyone's different. Is it through chess or is it through martial arts? Are you a physical gross motor skill guy, you know? Or are you like a chess person, but you boost it over and over? So if you go through my course over and over, you can spot your mistakes if you're not delusional. So that's the big change. The system is very different. If I'm wrong, I just kept getting late testimonials one after another. I'm the only one. If I'm wrong. Arrow science is not arrow theory, arrow science. This is arrow science to the maximum now. And the inner game, your cortisol can affect your inner game. Not being able to budget your money can affect your inner game. It's all related. So as I'm saying, now we talk about stage number 5 of Elon Musking. Once you get the other 4 down, the other 4 things were what? Be less dumb, remove unnecessary steps, don't optimize what does not need to be optimized, accelerate the results, and number 5, automation. Only when you have the other 4, you can add the other 5. The automations, all these drills, watering the seed, right? Unteachable cases can never show up and do it. Because even if they do the mindset playlist, an unteachable case, you have to keep updating the mindset playlist. I remember one student, Latino guy, we update like more than 5 times, 5 different sets. We use a different color. He has such bad mindsets, JP. And every homework assignment he did was all wrong. Never once was it right. And then he starts shooting down all the ideas like an iron dome. Every idea shut down, shut down, shut down, shut down, shut down. He does it his way and it fails. But somehow, even though I'm the expert, he's the expert in his mind. So yeah, that's another thing. I don't see him here as much, right? He's busy with work. But that's the thing. I gave him Elon Musk book to read instead. If he doesn't want to listen to me, even though I'm the expert in Daygame, I'm the only one getting people laid, then you can read Elon Musk's book in his own words. I think that's a good book. There's a book on Kindle called Elon Musk in his own words. You can play the thing out loud with Kindle and learn some new ideas. So this 5 steps is part of Elon Musk's book. Elon Musk in his own words. So if he's the richest man in the world, right? Makes sense? If he's the richest man in the world. So about Kindle, right? Kindle has a reader these days. You can actually read the text out loud. I shit you not. So this is a good book. I like this one a lot. The Book of Elon. That's what it's called. So if you play out loud, you can literally just press play and it'll read out loud.
We cannot count on it being open for a long time. We need to take advantage while this window is open. 898 becoming multiplanetary is an evolutionary scale, and deciding what is important through the lens of history is a good way to distinguish what seems important now from what is truly important over the long term. 899 if we get to Mars and beyond. That will seem far more important in historical context than anything else we do. Things like the Soviet Union will be forgotten or merely remembered by arcane historical scholars. The invasion of Iraq won't even be a footnote. 900 using how to look at a long period of time. A 4 billion year history of Earth and the evolution of life itself. There are only about 16 left.
You might think, well, why are you playing so fast? I remember everything they say. I can actually listen to them. I'm used to it. So I can learn faster. So I learn a lot of his techniques. But those are his 5 principles in the actual book too. It's in there. And this is the best like fucking $6 I've ever spent. Only $6 for that book in his own words. It's almost like if you've written a book, it's worth learning. I would highly recommend that book. I like that very much. If there's a book reading club here, read that book. It's worth it. So this means that most guys don't fit in the boyfriend-girlfriend frame. So when you automate it, that's the difference. My students does drills. It raises the thing, but they also have memory for drills now. Memory drills are the new thing in 2025. Memory boosting drills, external brain. It's kind of like going to battlefield and having like a tactical visor that tells you exactly where the enemies are, where they're spotted, and what techniques you can do. It gives you options. It tells you what your mistakes are. It's almost like a neural link. That's the difference. We have external neural link. Before we didn't have that, we depended on them having a memory, but it's been wiped out because the hippocampus can shrink. That's what you don't realize. If you have money problems, the hippocampus can shrink. And, you know, if we ask like, about the memory shrinking. 1 second. So hippocampus. I actually got this from Google, and it says chronic stress and high cortisol, prolonged exposure to high cortisol results from chronic stress can cause neurotoxic effects. It can physically shrink the hippocampus, a brain region critical for learning and memory. This can lead to impaired memory, Marco has, brain fog, and difficulty concentrating for long term. The connection to the loser effect. That means when you have cortisol and you lose because of ADHD, the feeling of defeat or loser effect is a stress experience that activates the body's stress response. This can explain the memory issues associated in a few ways. Impaired retrieval. During a subsequent competitive situation, the stress and anxiety from a past defeat can increase cortisol, interfering with the ability to retrieve information or perform at a high level. Focus on the negative. Stress can cause the brain to focus more on emotionally arousing details at the expense of other information. A person experiencing a loser effect may have a more vivid, consolidated memory of the defeat, while their ability to access other memories, information can be impaired. You see that? When it fucks up, when you have a double chig and your memory is impaired because of the chronic stress shrinking your hippocampus, then you can't focus on day game and learn new things. The drills become obsolete without the memory boosting. So, off topic, but what is your IQ score? I think it's 170 something. The last time I checked, I could be wrong. I could take an official IQ test. So, you're right about the memory. I never feel like I was losing, but you are in you're in 5-figure debt, so you're losing like crazy. You don't feel it, but your body keeps score. So, all right, that means most guys do not fit in the boyfriend and girlfriend frame. Some of us are not above 5'9" or national average, or we're not like a higher race, like tall black, Latino, tall white. The boyfriend frame is usually reserved for taller men before the tariff era, before the inflation. She often has around like 10 boyfriends before she gets married, 5 to 10. And then she marries the last guy. The first guy is always like some short ethnic, so she's not racist in high school. The first guy is always like some 5'6" Asian guy or some guy like that, some half white, half Asian. The second boyfriend is like 6 foot tall. Third boyfriend's like 6'1". Fourth boyfriend's like 6'4". Fifth boyfriend is like 5'11". Next boyfriend is like 6 foot tall. Next one's like 5'9", and she gets married. So that's how it's like, you know. But you don't fit in those tall boyfriends, material, high ethnicity types. So you got to use the husband material to jump all the way to the front of the line because she wants to get married at the very end. That's the end game, procreation. So it makes all the sense in the world to do that. So the third hidden secret is worshipping infields of the day game coach optics. Now they're not doing infields. They're standing next to women with DSLR cameras. And that doesn't mean that's automatically late. When you worship the coach's optics because you've been brainwashed by them, They're using something called problem, agitate, solve. I wrote this down in my last YouTube live. See that? This is the marketing formula. Problem, agitate, that means make you feel bad, and solve, which is their boot camps. Problem, agitate, solve. I'm teaching you some marketing techniques that I don't use on you. I'm not creating massive pain. ABCs of attraction will tell you the wrong problems. You'll say, oh, Asian guys, right? Like Asian guys, they're like, they need to make $100,000 to equal like that white man. And then, yeah, so that's how they do it. And they make you feel bad. Like, oh, if I don't make $100,000, I don't equal a white man. Because of some scientific study from Harvard. And then when the people feel bad, then they start to think, oh, shit, what do you do? Then they start to agitate the problem. Then you go to Reddit, and then they start to write down all the quotes from the other students and use it against them. Make them feel bad. Asian masculinity bullshit. Now the whole problem is warping your mind with brainwashing. And then to solve it is their boot camp, $7,000 in Latin America, just to get one lay swiping on Tinder because you're Asian and you're not enough in North America, right? Because you don't get any Tinder dates. So they get you stuck. And they teach night game boot camps in Toronto, but nobody gets laid. They just poll 3 times for one guy who has decent looks. And not lays, 3 polls. So their whole problem, agitate, solve is how they warp you because of the optics. Because he pulled 2 women home, like college women, and then now they're brainwashed. He didn't say he got laid with them. If he got laid, he will brag in front of everyone's face. He just pulled them. He just did a demonstration. Good for him. He done one demonstration, and now they're brainwashed because of optics. Optics is what gets you stuck. So when they stand next to women, hire women, I'm not saying ABCs, but I'm saying like Justin Wayne, for example, if he has a job scam, so you can stand next to women, he's the boss of some acting gig, and then later on he closes her, he's still standing next to women. If you have like status maxing and you're just standing next to women for pre-selection means that if you stand next to women, they don't know if you fucked or not. They're going to assume you have more status because it's pre-selection. So they use this pre-selection idea to brainwash people. So once you get fall for the optics, especially Facebook coaches of white dating coaches, they're always in Thailand or Bali or something, and they take pictures of European women who are displaced from the Ukrainian and Russian war when they have no money, and they can hire these models for cheap and say that's a girlfriend. You have no proof because you never see open to sex or anything. You just see number closed videos or ends in a cab. And then you see these optics, and then you're stuck. And when you see these optics, you think they're good, but that's how Game Global they distract you with their problem, agitate, solve, because you listen to this shit because of the optics. And then when you see that, you get so brainwashed and stuff. John's a high IQ and the best brain. Oh, thank you very much. So basically, what I'm saying is that the optics is the procreation switch. You know how women, they want to procreate, right? Marco's procreate. He's a father. So congratulations. But a lot of like procreation is part of our human race. So when you think there's a tall, good-looking white guy, and then he's in Bali, Indonesia, or Thailand, and he's standing next to a woman in a perfect DSLR camera, they pay $5,000 or $6,000 for that camera, and then they take a picture of it with a different DSLR behind a DSLR, and she's in a photo shoot on the bed, which is a paid model, but you fall for it because you think he's tall and white, but his eyes are like Pennywise. It goes 2 separate directions, like that. So because it looks like Pennywise, these are not the same white people I respect. I respect white people, blue pill. These guys used to have a lot of social skills. I'm related to white people. My aunt's white. My cousins are half white, half Chinese. My cameraman's a tall white guy. And also, my friends are white. A lot of my naturals that taught me are white too. So I have nothing against white people. But the ones who are dating coaches, they're not. All their eyes, we looked at it before. Justin Wayne's eyes, they go separate. That makes sense? So tips to prevent stuttering. You want to sing it like a song. So whenever you notice, right? Like we take a singer, right? Like Ozzy Osbourne, he's dead now, rest in peace. But he stuttered like crazy when he talks like this. He sounds like he has a sock in his mouth. But when he sings it like a song, and he's perfectly clear, then all his problems are solved in stuttering. Accents only happens when your mouth is lazy. When you're Indian or you're Russian, you say tree, like tree. White people say tree. The mouth moves like this. Or a British accent, you'd be like tree, tree. It barely moves. Tree, apple. When we're white people, we say, hey, what's up, bro? I just ate an apple. Apple. My mouth moves open. Apple. When British, Russians, or Indians speak, they go apple, apple. You see that? It doesn't move. So therefore, if they sing through things and enunciate, there's no stuttering. So Elon Musk stutters. Well, he's also autistic or Asperger's. So who cares? So what? If he stutters, who gives a shit? He's rich. He can compensate. You know? So for the other guy standing next to hired models, right? Then you assume they must be good. That's what Game Global does. When Game Global can no longer get lay testimonials, and you guys are ignoring that I keep getting, because the physics work, they only double down on optics. They're optic coaches now. The more they have less testimonials, the more optics that they use. So they have this in-year coaching bootcamp idea where they use alcohol and heavy barrel escalations, and their students uses it. They bring the alcohol because and they pull women back home, and then the coach says, use the alcohol, escalate super hard, make sure it's below the level of grape. So they already have the alcohol because on the sales call, they asked if the students are willing to have a drink with the coach to celebrate after the boot camp. They need to, before they even take on the student, they want to see if the student, if he's willing to bench hold and actually buy the alcohol before they even accept him into the coaching. Does that make sense? They have to make sure the student uses alcohol or they will not get the infield for the in-year coaching boot camp. But they no longer can get that because most of the guys, like, that's how they filter you. But if you don't want to use alcohol, they just don't teach you. It's like, fuck off. Is that correct? I don't know. But I think there's some truth to it. So a lot of times it's alcohol maxing, but it no longer works during the tariff era because it's too much stress. Women will resist the alcohol. They'll run out of the room. They'll kick you off the bed. So that's how they get them to do it. But it doesn't work during the tariff era. Women are very, very resistant. If you feel like there's a lot of stress because of a 5-figure debt, imagine how women feels. You're a pressure cooker. They're more emotional. They feel like a lot of pressure. So if you're very forward, you're very like not whitewashed, kind of like that ABC student. He's so Asian washed that women almost get afraid of him in 2026. You know, it's like shit. He's so Asian washed. I always say, if you want to know if you're Asian washed or not, look at the people of ICE, right? Immigration enforcement. You look at the mugshots. And then there was a guy that looked exactly like my ABCs of Attraction victim student. I show him side by side. You look like him. There's only 3 or 4 Asians out there for mugshots, and he's one of them. They look exactly the same. I say, if you look like that, right, you have the wrong fashion, you're going to scare women. Because the reason why they're not like staying in the country is because they have not assimilated with the fashion and the culture, you know, and illegal immigration. But even those kind of immigrations, I have nothing against them. My parents are immigrants. I'm a product of immigrants. So I have nothing against that. I mean, legal immigration. My parents legally immigrated to Canada. But what I'm trying to say is that if you have that kind of fashion, for example, like a lot of people that move to Vancouver, but they don't change, they have that Asian haircut, Asian fashion. What's going to happen is that you create xenophobia. You're part of the out tribe. And you're not husband material. You're going to get rejected before you open your mouth because there's so much pressure on her due to the economy. It's a pressure cooker. And then when you have somebody part of the outside tribe, that's why students have to say like indirect, adaptive opener, transition to it. Then his statements of empathy, I know this is random, but I'm born here. That's what this student says. I'm born here, but people don't talk to each other anymore. He has to tell her directly, hey, I'm born here. I'm not foreign. That's the only way he can stay in a set. Otherwise, you'll freak the fuck out. And when ABC says that, oh no, you got a K-pop max, right? You got to like whatever, because the BTS, they don't give a fuck in North America. That doesn't even work for night game, doesn't work for day game. It's just mental bullshit for a Tinder with status maxing in a different third world country with an exotic advantage trying to raise the looks and a positive stereotype. Lots of women that are in third world countries, Latin America, I would say that at least 25% of 1 in 4 are really into Asian guys because of K-pop. I don't know why. Latinas really hate Asian men in North America if they're not tall and strong with a big V-shaped body, and she has a big like hips and small waist. They're super shallow. But when it comes to K-pop, once they like K-pop, they love Asian men for Latinas. I hope that makes sense. They cream their fucking panties over it. So it depends. But in Latin America, apparently, a lot of the women are into BTS and other K-pop and Korean drama. So, of course, most of those guys that are Koreans, they usually like Eastern European women instead. Latinas get left out a little bit, but that's what gives them the exotic advantage for Tinder. But when you bring that mindset to Daygame, it doesn't work. And you're like, John looks K-pop a little bit. He could be skinnier, but it's not that. You saw, like, I bleached my hair, right? The last video, you saw some roots growing, right? And you saw some white hairs. It's not because I wanted to bleach my hair to look like a K-pop artist. It's more like I have no choice. It's not like I want to. It's not like I intentionally do that. It's more of a function rather than fashion. So the thing is that they can't get boot camp clips anymore of their inner coaching because romantic sexual doesn't work. Because women are not going to get laid with a student if she gets drunk and emotionally stressed out by the economy. This is key because the day game coaching using romantic flirts shows that it is not transferable anymore in 2026. They don't have any more late testimonials and only post material from years ago from bootcamp clips. Their game has expired. And Justin Wayne's game, fuck, he doesn't even have day game late testimonials anymore. Back then in the old days, he used to have 10 of them. 8 of them were instructors, 2 of them were civilians, tall, good-looking people. It's like, if it only works for instructors, I could be the 11th testimonial. But for all the other person, outside of one black person, that was one of my students, who's like 300 pounds and 6'3". Outside of him, he has not joined the coaching directly. He has paid for part of it. They disappeared when I insulted Andrew Late, who's canceled right now and he's in jail. So I was right. But for that, there's only like 12 people that ever gotten laid with Justin Wayne's game. It's not a transferable style. It's not for civilians because he's using job scams. So that's right, exactly. So their game has expired. It's not all game. There's also skills that are important for my students to drill down, especially Marco, right? For the arrow. Social skills, social calibrations, emotional control. The game is the tip. Maneuver, sexualized objections, looping. The looks, the V-shaped body, the whitewash fashion, that's also part of the arrow. The material of the arrow, depending if it's metal, if you're white, or a strong like aluminum or something, if you're black and tall, if you're Latino, something like a little bit less material. You're Asian, like a brittle wood, shorter arrow, less social skills, less emotional control. And then you focus on game techniques. Hard to penetrate unless you're going for Asian women with a bigger target. Smaller target is if she's white. And then when you have a bad economy, it shakes, right? I think it's a good metaphor. The arrow science. Maneuver, sexualized objections, looping. So, yeah, these are arrows for my bolt gun. So, what do you call a crossbow? Yeah, a crossbow. So now I know what you're thinking. Oh, it's romantic flirts that were taught to you by other day game coaches. Well, the tricky thing is that they don't have any more day game late testimonials. It doesn't matter about the rhetoric. What is rhetoric? Okay? Words have meaning. So, RHETORIC, meaning. What's rhetoric? Rhetorics are a speaking or writing effectively to study a persuasion, whatever, influence an audience, ethos, establish speaker credibility, logos, using logic, reasoning, facts. whatever. But let's see if there's a dictionary. Rhetoric. Artists speaking very effectively, like whatever their rhetoric is, right? Just because they speak in such a way, they're brainwashing you with their rhetoric. They're fooling you because you look at the optics. You look at Justin Wayne's optics, he must be good. But if it's a job scam and then they stop getting paid unless they give out the passwords for their social media and they work their way up to that level and they get a tattoo at the very end, locked in process, kind of like Andrew Late, but different, a sadistic sort of that type of game, acting like some digital pimp. That's unethical. Unless they're playing that type of game, then that's not transferable. Then you think he's so great. But in reality, they're using status. If he just told everyone he's using status maxing behind the scenes, I think, and then that's the style of it, then, people will forgive that. But they make it seem like it's all from Daygame, all from boyfriend, girlfriend frame. Doesn't work anymore. I mean, here's the thing. So you think about using romantic flirts. Does it work anymore? Or romantic sexual? Didn't it expire during the tariff era? Is it transferable anymore or not? It's not. And I've updated the Elite Bundle Resurrections. You can now buy it in 3 pieces. Wouldn't it be great to have it in 3 pieces if you cannot afford the first one? I mean, it'll make it easier to afford the first one, right? $350. Won't I raise the price after the fall when it starts raining? Because the inflation is higher, I need to compensate for it. Isn't it better to get it right now before the summer is over? Then you have to turn into a pickup artist. Isn't that better that you actually go out there for 30 days, but you also show up for 30 days to do the mirror practice to get the basic training? And then you go out there for 30 days. Isn't that better than being an unteachable case where you run away all the time and you have approach anxiety? But even if you practice, isn't it better you practice for a few minutes and then you go out there? So you become a pickup artist? The reason I made this change is simple. Isn't it better to go, like if you go to an MMA gym, right? And you get fucking brutalized and you got beaten the fuck down, would you ever want to come back? If I made the first month super hard during a pressure cooker environment, would you actually want to do more training? No, you'll quit. That's not what I want. I need more students late. So isn't it better to work on the basic training? That's way better. So it's like going to a new MMA gym. If you aren't a fighter, maybe it's better to start slow. So if you go into a gym, isn't it better to go to a gym for 30 days in a row and just sit on the fucking bench press? Don't even do a bench press and then go home just to build the habit of going inside the gym. And isn't it better for the second month to actually focus on the drills afterwards? The first month is just to show up, be a pickup artist, be a gym rat. Is not a better strategy for 2026. Sacrifice the first month to show up to install a habit. So if you don't like working out, don't like doing the drills, and you want a zombie half-ass mass approach with mystery method bullshit, that is like Justin Wayne romantic flirt derivative. Why don't you learn how to show up first? And month number 2, why don't you use Elite Access? That's when you get the personal trainer. That's when you get the martial art instructor. Isn't it better to do that in the second month when you can show up for the first month? You do the drills. That's what I'm addressing. So if I keep correcting you early, right, when you get stressed out and eject, like how women eject for romantic flirts with alcohol and heavy bedroom escalation, you eject when there's an Iran war and there's a tariff, right? The arrow will shake, wouldn't it? The fucking arrow will shake everywhere because you can't aim that shit during a bad economy. Am I right? So if you're not a pickup artist, right, when you quit, if you had to start all over, that's why I prefer people who has approached before. Isn't it better to get students that are above 5'7", who does not have a double chin, who's not affected by the arrow shaking by the economy? And then, so that way you can get laid faster, right? If you are not a newbie, unteachable case. And I have 692 laid in testimonials. 692. You want to see my testimonial page? Oh shit, the scrolling, right? You know how long to scroll through it? Maybe 25 minutes. If you go on the phone and you just scroll through it one at a time, and you're not trying to go fast, but just trying to go one at a time, every picture, it'll take you 20 or 25 minutes. Like, what the fuck? You want to know what 700 Lane and Poe testimonials or close to it look like? Imagine doing this, right, on your phone. Right? Like here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And that's like 13, 14, that's 30 seconds. 15, 16, 7. Imagine that for 25 minutes. Next, next, next. That's how many Lane and Poe testimonials. Because the physics work. The physics are there. And I continually get students late year after year. Marco's over there. He's last year's champion. So he got a girlfriend this year, half Latina, half white. So he's not here. So if it's 25 minutes, I probably know what I'm talking about. So if she usually drinks wine, how is that a game crutch? Most women, it's a game crutch because when you go and use Tinder, right, or use Daygame, they expect to drink alcohol because they're down to fuck. Daygame, they're not down to fuck. It's not because she usually does it. Because most women are not going to drink and get themselves drunk in the Daygame social interaction when she's not down to fuck. She goes on Tinder because she's down to fuck. She goes to a nightclub and drinks alcohol because she's down to fuck. But she's not down to fuck a Daygame. Does that make sense? So you can't expect every woman to expect alcohol. It's like, you might think, oh, some women like to drink. It's not worth risking it in the first world country. The fastest way to get yourself a grape charge and get yourself canceled and thrown in jail is very simple. Use alcohol and heavy bedroom emasculation. If I'm wrong about that, I don't think I am. Has it ever happened before? That's what I'm saying. We're not down the fuck. Let's continue. As I'm saying, I'm the world's best day game coach. Is there anybody that has I have more than every day game coach in the world combined? And you guys are ignoring it because aren't you being fooled by the optics? So if I update the day game system every single year, every 6 months, I update the system, then won't you get results faster? And this year's update for the Aero Science, by split testing, by showing up for 30 days for Elite 30, won't you more likely continue? If my students do one drill, then one approach every single time on the second month, and then they update their pinned video for all their mistakes, they play it 20 times, won't you have an external brain? After you capture the infield, I analyze it again, I update the drills. I update the pinned video if I have to. Won't you get laid faster if you know what to do and you lost your memory due to cortisol? Won't you recover back your memory through external memory like a neural link? If it's memory compression and adaptation? The point is that you need to have all three of these things. And isn't it great that I create external brain for you for this year? For the first principles, what Elon Musk says. The first principles, as he says, is that if we reason by analogy, which is the opposite of first principles, then we are saying that we are reasoning by the past. Like RSD and mystery method has always done it this way, so we should always do that. It's like saying that horses are good, we don't need cars. Does that make sense? Because you're reasoning by the past. You never reason by first principles. The batteries are expensive for cars. It's always been that way. But what if you broke down the battery? Aluminum, cobalt, nickel, cadmium, a shell for it, aluminum, alkaline. If you broke that down, right, it's only a fraction of the cost if you build it yourself. Does that make sense? So if that's the case, and you break down the cost, that's first principles, right? Because you're breaking all the fundamental truths and reasoning upwards from there. So if we reason upwards from a bad economy can wipe out your memory, make you have a double chin, make you lose your hair, make you lose your muscle mass, then isn't it better for first principles not to let short ethnics with triple chins losing their hair and no muscle mass weighing over 250 pounds? Should we not, maybe we should not let them join? Because if they have that much cortisol, they have no memory. And with no memory, they have approach anxiety and they approach resistance. So by first principles, doesn't it make sense to not allow these people during a tariff economy to join? And doesn't it make sense to have a memory boosting thing for people that do not have double chins or, all these memory problems? Shouldn't we filter out those people instead? Check out in the Elite Bundle Resurrections. Shouldn't you start with Elite 30? Maybe 1 or 3, see if you can do it. If you can't do it, shouldn't you just stick with that for 1 year? If you want to get Elite Access, which is second part of Elite Bundle Resurrections, shouldn't we have a test to see if you can show up for 7 days or 14 days? Then you send it to me on WhatsApp, your mirror practice, and also your approach, the audio. But what if you start skipping days? Should you be allowed to join if you can't show up for 7 days or 14 days? Can unteachable cases even show up for 14 days? They won't even show up for like 1 or 2 days. They'll disappear for 3 or 4 days because they like to be slow, right? Should slow people be allowed to join? What if you're not watering the seed to the plant? Are you still germinating it or are you killing the seed? Are you adapting? Or are you losing your memory and you're being lazy and you're full of cortisol? Are you like a decaying zombie? So what I'm saying is that doesn't it make sense to have Elite Tonality Mastery, 10 Skypes, Elite Playbook, which is the Old Testament, and also Elite Tonality Mastery, New Testament with Elite 30, New Testament? Isn't that better to put that as number 3? That means if they haven't done the first 2, why should I let them have the secret technology that Marco got laid with, Elite Tonality Mastery? Why should I let people even be allowed to use it? Isn't it better I gatekeep that as the third option? Does that make sense? And then you get the 10 Skypes afterwards. You get only 1 Skype for Elite 30. Isn't that smarter? Just to make sure that people actually follow through. Shouldn't this entire Elite Bundle Resurrections be a filter system? And it's not because we're picking and choosing students. It's more like we're changing the audience. It's not we're choosing them. It's more like we want to make sure, isn't it better to make sure they're coachable? Because an easy case can get laid in 3 days, normal case in 3 weeks, hard case in 6 months, impossible case in like 9 months, unteachable case never. They have to teach themselves. They have to do it their way. They have to shoot down all my ideas. They cannot be coachable. And they have to do it for 2 years in a row. And then they'll get laid. They cannot involve being coached. If they're uncoachable, why should I be coaching those students? It might be unethical if I coach them. Shouldn't they be discarded? It's not because I'm choosing students and the ones who can get laid and then I can double down on it. No, it's more like we're choosing easy cases, normal cases, hard cases, impossible cases. Can't students jump one spot if they do the mindset playlist temporarily, at least for 1 week before they bench hold? And then when they lose their mind again and they have a crash out like a far left, can they go through the mindset playlist audio, calling themselves out? And then they hard reset again. They become an impossible case to a hard case. Can't they do that temporarily? Does that make sense? Does not make more sense. And should not raise the price after the fall because summer price is like cheaper. $350, is that really that expensive compared to ABCs of Attraction $7,000 boot camp? No, not that expensive. So you're losing money by gatekeeping technology, Elite 60 fashion domination. But I'm also getting more students laid that are able to make it. By gatekeeping it, am I not keeping away the unteachable cases? They'll never get laid. So everyone else that they're mentally fit and they're physically fit, won't they be able to get laid faster? Even if they're impossible case, 9 months. If I gatekeep from all these other people, isn't it better to focus on the better quality of students instead of getting a heart attack over like the bad students that are uncoachable doing the opposite? If a student does the opposite, doesn't show up, invents their own techniques, listens to their own demons, oppression affecting their perceptions, and they're delusional, and they do the exact opposite, how could they get laid if they do the opposite? How? There's no mathematics, right? So that's why I made it like that for the summer. Isn't it great to get a discount? And then once you've gotten laid before for those people, isn't it better to have people that have gotten laid before, more than one lays, to join the coaching so you can do it again? People that without having super anxiety, approach anxiety, and super like approach resistance with super low SMV because of cluster C personality, avoidant personality disorder for these unteachable case newbies. But shouldn't those guys just take Elite 30 first and then work their way up? Isn't that a better way? Instead of gatekeeping, how about Elite 30? Isn't that better to be a mental and physical test like an army? See if they can do that basic foundation and show up first. If they can't do that, why should it be part of Elite Access or Elite Tonality Mastery? That's what I'm saying. So you can, to find my website, it's hard to find it. If you can't find me on Google, you can always go to the top of my YouTube over here. Let me show you. Right? I got to pee soon, so I got to cut it short. But if you want to look at my website, you want to find it? So here's the thing. So where the fuck do you find my website? Where you find my courses? Right? Where in this fucking thing? Easy. You click the links over here. Let's go to the first one, official site. And then from here, it goes to my newest blog post, or it goes to my homepage right here. And then all the testimonials are down here. But I have to cover them, you know? I have to start covering them because there's too many like lay testimonials here. Yeah, I gotta cover it right now. So it's just you gotta be scrolling for like so much, right? You gotta be scrolling for 8 minutes in a row. No, 25 minutes, not 8 minutes, 25 minutes. But if you're scrolling for 25 minutes, and these students are not just giving reviews, right? Like ABCs, even if they didn't get late. These are not reviews, right? These are all like lay testimonials, screenshots, or video testimonials, but mostly screenshot testimonials. If it's 25 minutes, then isn't it more likely that there's a physics behind it, 20 out of 35? If other game global coaches can no longer get students laid in 2025 and 2026, and they're switching out their major, which is day game into night game, or night game into like third world country Tinder maxing, but the coaches that are still teaching day game, aren't they a fraud if they willingly know their day game system doesn't work, but they're selling out boot camps by using problem, agitate, solve? Aren't they unethical if they state a false problem like Indian hate, and then they have this Indian agitation, and then they say the solution is the boot camps, which is not true? Then nobody gets laid. Aren't you being brainwashed? And shouldn't you join before the summer is over? Because what happens if women no longer are outside? Give a thumbs up for that. What happens if women are not outside? What will you do? What happens when it starts raining and they don't want to be outside? Isn't this an opportunity cost? If you're listening to Game Global, isn't this an opportunity cost? Aren't you inviting like bad mindsets, bad neural pathways because you trust their optics? Aren't you wasting your time and money? So when I get all these students late, in like Asians, Indians, and stuff like that, and that's hard, then if it works for Asians and works for Indians, doesn't it work for everyone else because they have lower SMV? But don't most of you don't fit in a boyfriend-girlfriend frame? Only like one of you in this whole chat fits in that frame. But what about the rest of the people that don't fit in that frame? How are you supposed to get laid using romantic flirts? Do the mathematics. Is there any sort of possible mathematics where you can win? If we look at the physics, the answer is no. Shouldn't you start with Elite 30 first? And even if you get stuck because you bench out and you procrastinate and you're slow, you want to go at your own pace, but shouldn't you stick with that for like half a year or 1 year first before you think of anything else? Shouldn't you get the foundations down until you can actually show up for 30 days? At least 14 days first? Shouldn't you at least do that for 14 days just to see if you can fucking do it? Then you can move on. So if you can show up for 7 days filming the video of you practicing in the mirror from day one and then going outside, and day two, you send it to me on WhatsApp, isn't that a good test to see who's mentally fit and who's a procrastinator who's the anti-cheapo case that should be filtered. That's what I'm saying. Because romantic sexual or romantic flirts doesn't work anymore. I mean, I criticize the mystery method, but this just a fucking derivative, derived of the mystery method, added with romantic flirts on top of it, but the same open, attract, comfort, seduction, and closed model of mystery method with RSD mass approaching. If that doesn't work during a tariff, affecting your voice due to the aeroscience, then does that make sense? Then how can you get laid? If my students are the only one who can get laid for Daygame this year, would it make sense to go anywhere else? That's all guys say. I got to pee now, right? That's exactly 3 hours. Shit, that's exactly 3 hours. I didn't recognize that. But yeah, thank you for being here. When we reach 100 views, right? I'll be on YouTube Live as soon as possible. Today, we only reached 100 views later on. Does that make sense? We only reached 100 views exactly today after 5 days. It was 99 views yesterday. So if you get 100 views, I'll be here. Anyways, that's all I say. Got 0 people here. Give it a thumbs up. All right, I pee now. Good talking to you guys. We'll talk next time, right? I'll be here as soon as possible. As soon as we reach 100 views, I'm here immediately. All right, take care, guys. Good night.